I'm Doug Jones, and you have discovered Beyond Trek Podcast.
Red alert.
Hey, look at that. Look at that. I think we're here. Yep. We're good.
We absolutely are.
Yeah. So
We did it
that's
this time.
right. It's a beautiful thing. So we're here. Thank you everyone for joining. I think we're going to have I am Big J.
I'm Renzo.
And I'm Dag. And we're here to talk to you about Discovery's Season 3 finale, That Hope Is You Part 2. It is an end to 23 weeks of Star Trek. And if you haven't seen the episode yet, here is your spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Okay. Spoiler alert. I think it would go without saying that if you are watching a Star Trek podcast or a review, that there would be spoilers. That's just me. Is that too much to expect?
No, but we have the fancy spoiler alert screen that we spent all that time on.
Did it actually play?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, of course it did. Was there ever any doubt?
Relying on technology is a mistake.
Was there ever any doubt?
It is. Yeah. Technology and I have not been getting along together all that well lately.
Is it my understanding correctly? Did Murphs make that GIF for us? That spoiler alert GIF?
Yes.
And isn't Murphs moderating our channel right now?
That's what he claims. Whether it's actually moderating, I don't know. Hopefully he is, and is
everybody in
listening.
Chat give a shout out to Beyond Trek Productions, because that's Murphs. He's our second expert GIF maker.
He is, and I'm trying to keep the lights adjusted just right so that the light's not bouncing off my head because of the no here. I think I might get some bald jokes in the chat today, which figures.
That's okay.
It's supposed to be Don't Pick on Big J Day, right?
Every day is Pick on All of Us Day, though.
I mean, that's what friendship is, right? Picking on your friends shows that you care.
Trying to, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. So, real quick, want to tell everyone we're going to do the same thing we did last week. If you were on our live stream last week during the 12 days of content on the virtual TrekCon, at the end of our show, or close to the end, we're going to put up our Beyond Trek hotline. So that's going to be a Google Voice number that you can call. It's going to come here to my phone and we can talk with you. You can tell us what you thought of the episode, et cetera, ask us questions. So it's a neat little thing. Last week we had three people call, which, is good. It's good. I like that. It was a good time. And if you do call and for some reason it's not answered, we're on the other line, so we will call you back. So anyway, how do we want to get this bad boy started?
The same way we always do, Big J.
Cover the episode.
Happily and merrily.
Oh, man, this episode opens in Creepy Town, i.e. the holographic habitat on Sukal's ship, and a Gormagander is flying through the air. And we hear a computer voice telling us that this animal has the longest track record of being endangered on the Federation database.
Have we seen this before?
Yes.
A Gormagander?
Where have I seen that?
In Discovery Season 1?
In Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, when
it was what
Mud
Brain
shows up
Wilson
and
was in.
time loops Discovery.
That was what he was
while.
in when he got on the ship. Okay, I thought it looked familiar. All right, thank you.
And I really like how they call it a cosmozoan. I'm like, oh, that just makes Junior and Gom2 and all those other spaceborne life forms finally have some level of classification. That's cool.
It's actually a phrase that they've used in Star Trek beta canon as well, too. Like in a bunch of novels, when they talk about things like Gom2, Junior, or the space jellies from Encounter at Farpoint, they're called cosmozoans or astrozoans at sometimes. But yeah.
Way cool. It's like astronaut versus cosmonaut. Still doing that Cold War stuff 30 years after.
A bit. Now, one thing I found really interesting was, remember when we talked about this a couple episodes ago, not last episode, but the one before, we saw the things in the distance and we were like, are those like the flower things from Picard? What are those? Those things are creepy looking in the distance. And now we know, oh, they're harmless space whales. Cool.
Maybe they should have told the probe what the heck to go do with itself back in 2286.
2286, yeah. Maybe they
Space
sent
Wolves are
the
like,
probe.
Hey, sorry, we don't know the humpbacks, but we're their neighbors, and they totally got killed, dude. Sorry.
Right.
We see Culber, and he rubs the radiation burns on his face and walks away into our first of many spinning cuts. Those were an interesting directorial choice. I don't think we've seen those previously.
No, and
Seen
Oh,
it
they should.
once. We've seen it once in Disco, but it was an exterior shot of Discovery, like they rotated to it,
Mhm.
and that was cool. This episode, they did it like I want to say it was 4 times in like the first 30 minutes.
Oh, I've
And
called them out, baby.
Good. I'm just not a fan. I'm just gonna put that out there. I am just not a fan of that. It's
the other one that throws me off
distracting.
is when they do the fight scene sometimes and someone gets flipped over. It's like the camera is connected to them when they flip, so the camera's flipping with them. You know that little thing? I don't know. I get that they're trying to do all these interesting camera angles. You start upside down and then you move the camera, all this other stuff. And to me, it seems a little much, kind of, but I could just be being picky. But I hope that they do, at least maybe next season. I want to see some of the Dutch camera angles that they did in the 60s Batman show. It's kind of slanted a
Tilted.
little bit.
They
Yeah,
did a
little
bunch of
tilt.
those.
Oh yeah,
They did them, yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, just like Dag's doing.
Here I am at my Dutch angle. That hurts my back.
Like I'm down with some avant-garde like film shots and some creative use of like even perspective when they change things up. I'm even down with the spin shot. I said I liked the first time that they did it earlier in the season with the external shot, right? But
Mhm.
doing it 4 times in this episode, every time that you switch scenes from one thing to another gets real old.
Yep.
Yep, it does.
We cut over to Sukal, and he says, you've got radiation burns too, and hands him this Kelpian bandage. Culber appears and tells Saru things in the habitat are getting worse, that Sukal's outburst may have caused another hull breach. Saru notes that as much as he'd like to get out, he cannot risk another burn to get Sukal to understand their plight. That's when Adira shows up, and she looks like a Zahian. If you remember the Zahian that with the princess or the queen that developed a way to recrystallize dilithium.
Yes, second season of Discovery. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she had a short where she appeared to Tilly in the mess hall.
She found a way to recrystallize dilithium, which Scotty told Kirk when they went from 2286 to 1984, 86, that we can't recrystallize dilithium even in the 23rd century. So nice little inconsistencies, and I think it wouldn't be Star Trek if you didn't have plot holes and inconsistencies in the canon. You remember that,
Big
Renzo?
J? I do. I remember that very well. But I don't think that actually counts as an inconsistency because of this. Poe made it really, really clear she didn't want this technology to be known by anyone. She didn't want anybody to do this. It was her invention. She didn't want anybody to do it because she was afraid of the conflicts it would cause. It would make war easier, etc. So I can totally rationalize it as Poe becomes queen. Poe takes over Zahea. She's involved in second season's Discovery's finale. She sees what war is like, and then she goes, you know what? We're never giving this technology to anybody else. This is my thing, and you can't have it. And then, Scotty discovers a new way to do it, probably unrelated to how she did it back in 1984.
Right. Okay. I like it. I'll go with that. How do you know all this stuff? Renzo, you're a smart guy. I'm glad you're here. You're good people.
Happy to help.
Spent all of our life watching too much Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yes. Shame to say it, but yeah.
I mean, I'm naming my dog Tuvix, so we're gonna see.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Oh,
Yeah.
don't name your poor dog
All right.
Tuvix.
He's
We're
a
gonna
mixed breed.
segue.
He's a
We're
mixed
gonna
breed. It's
segue.
perfect.
Just
Oh.
into this because dogs are awesome. Renzo, when are you getting your dog?
Tomorrow at noon.
And how old is your dog?
9 weeks.
9
Aw.
weeks old. Everybody, give claps in chat for Renzo and his little puppy that's coming home.
Yay.
He's gonna
It's gonna
chew
be
on
amazing.
everything.
Oh, yeah. He's
And-
going to tear
and
up.
Renzo Renzo's going to keep Tuvix alive. He's not going to put Tuvix in the transporter and split him back into
I'm a better person than
whatever
Janeway.
dogs these are. You know, I bet you Mirror Janeway is really friendly and like cares about humanity. I pulled that from what did I pull that from? Sonic Shower Thoughts. Thank you, Sonic Shower Thoughts.
Renzo's going to put his dog back in the transporter and split it back to a Pomeranian and a poodle.
Nah, in this case, it's a we think it's Lab and Sharpei. So he's got those wrinkly faced, but he's also got like that lab size. He's really cute.
And for anyone that's just now joining us, this is Beyond Dog Podcast. So formerly Beyond Trek Podcast for now.
Let the tracks out. And then just like 4 communicator badge chirps right after that.
I'm done here.
Oh
I'm just
my
going to sit and
gosh.
watch.
Guys, we haven't even gotten to the opening credits yet.
Jesus.
Jiminy
All right. Yeah, we got to.
Christmas. All right.
Someone's got to keep us going.
So yeah, Saru's totally like worried about triggering another burn if they make Sukal move too fast. Adira shows up. She looks Zahian, and she's got radiation exposure pills that will help protect them a little while longer. And then Grey shows up, and he looks like a Vulcan. He still has his blue hair, but he looks like a Vulcan. And the most spectacular thing about this is that both Culber and Saru can see him. Now I'm gonna move away from the plot hook for a second and be like, guys, can we figure out how this happened? And in chat, do you guys have a really good idea about how this hollow ship could make Grey visible and audible to other people? Let's talk about this for a couple of minutes. Renzo? You're on mute, as is tradition.
So my theory is...
Well, guys, I busted my ass all week to make sure that I didn't suffer any technical ailments.
I don't want you to hear my feedback.
Got through it. And now you mute yourself. You know what? I was thinking I'm going to jinx it, and the house is going to get hit by a tactical nuke just when I figured out how to get YouTube going.
I am in the DC suburbs, right? This is the place where it might happen.
Oh boy.
So my theory with regards to Grey's appearance is actually pretty cool, I think. So my theory is that the way that the holodeck in that advanced timeline handles things like race changing or appearance changing is it makes you feel what that appendage would feel if you actually had it. So how does a computer do that? Well, it's got to manipulate your brain somehow. So if it's able to feed data to your brain, then your brain has to be able to feed data to it, right? So let's say it turned Michael Burnham into a Vulcan, which isn't much of a stretch, right? Now she'd have pointy ears. If she goes and touches her ears at the pointy tip, her physical anatomy as a human doesn't have that, but she's going to feel it. Right? It's the only way it makes any sense is like a character in a game, right? So it's feeding her input. Now, with the Trill symbiont, in this case, or with Adira and her symbiont inside carrying Grey, it's reading Adira's brain, providing her inputs that now she's that they are Zahian. Yeah, that they're Zahian. And they read Grey as something that they expect to see. But now they project it. They give it a form through the holodeck. So to me, that makes some sense. It's a stretch. It's still a stretch because we don't know what Grey is really. So,
well, and look at this from Just Genus in the chat, and I like this. I think I can go with this one. Grey actually existed, plus is tied to Adira like Ben was to Jake in The Visitor. Plus, 900 years in the future, they can animate your thoughts. So I don't think it's too far of a stretch that here in the future that you have a thought and that's animated into the holodeck. So that was great. Just Genus, if I'm pronouncing that right. That's a good way of thinking about it. Animating your thoughts. That could get ugly.
You know, I was right along with Jenk Poe. I was thinking that Jenk Poe, somebody in our chat here. I was thinking that the holodeck identified the symbiont as a separate entity from Adira, and when the holodeck was like, all right, separate entity, cool, we're going to manifest that. How? Read the entity's brain thoughts. The most previous host is Grey. Okay, cool. Now we're going to manifest Grey. Oh, we have a proximity issue. Adira and Grey are in the same place, so we can't have them overlapping, you know, same matter, same space, the whole time cop approach. But this isn't time travel. I get that. Anyway,
right.
So the computer's like, choose a 3 feet space, you know, an empty space within 3 feet that you can do that, and boom, Grey.
Oh, sorry, Just Genius. It's Genius. I'm pronouncing it wrong. I bet.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those, like, the computer is so advanced at this point, its technology is indistinguishable from magic to us,
Mhm.
right? Like, we see that even with Star Trek in 24th century, right? Like, the replicator may as well be magic to our eyes as people in the 21st century, right? So in this case, we're talking about something from the 32nd or 31st century, depending on quite when that ship was made, right?
Mhm.
So we're dealing with leagues of advancement, so it may as well be magic, and
Sure.
that's something we got to accept about Discovery in general now that they're this far ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Culber tells Grey, affirming Adira's position that Grey has kind eyes. Saru tells them to get away and try and contact Discovery. Q our second spinning cut, and the appearance of the Kelpian beast just hanging out there. We slide on over to outside Starfleet headquarters. The Viridian is firing on the base while the ships inside fire on Discovery. Kovich asks about the spore drive, and Vance says they've got to make sure it doesn't fall into anyone else's hands by any means. On Discovery, Osyraa orders Viridian to fire harder and to blow up HQ's shield generator. HQ reports they've got 5 minutes until that shield generator goes down. Osyraa is pissed. She wants to regroup with their reinforcements and force Book to guide them to the dilithium planet. She wants the Federation obliterated, definite quote. News of Tilly's forces reaches the bridge, and Osyraa orders all regulators to retreat above Deck 5. Below decks, Owo and Reese note that the regulators are retreating, just as life support goes down. Vance is told that Discovery's losing life support with no way to tell who might be hurt. Stamets shows up, having been ejected in the last episode, and begs Vance to stop firing and to let him use the spore drive to rescue Saru and, more importantly, Culber and Adira.
Ejected. He got yeeted.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
Sorry, I wasn't using appropriate 32nd century slang. Yeeted.
The
I'm just gonna
yeeter.
go into my Bakersfield accent now, and we're gonna just talk about yeeters all day long. No, I'm kidding. All right. So, like, Vance has Stamets escorted off the station to an emergency transport to warp him away as far as possible. And Vance is like, I understand your sacrifice. I understand your position here, but I just can't have this. And Stamets is livid. We get to see a bit more of that.
I would be. That's why I really don't think if Starfleet were a real thing, I honestly am thinking that I couldn't do it. I couldn't be in it because something like that, if you're on that end of it, let's say you're Stamets, your significant other and a person you consider your child, and let's say you're a parent with a couple kids, and you know that they are in this place where they're in danger, but yet you're such a commodity to the Federation that they don't want anything to happen to you, but you want to go do this thing. That right there, I'd be throwing hands, trying to get out of there. In the previous episode, I really thought that he was going to take a swing on Michael. I am surprised that he did not become a lot more aggressive than he did, and even now that he didn't do that. So honestly, I couldn't do it. I think push came to shove, I would probably make, in the eyes of the good of the many, I'd make the bad call. I think I would do that. Kind of like what Worf did. It was either save Jadzia. Remember the DS9 episode? Either save Jadzia or go meet the Cardassian defector. He decided to save her. The defector, whoever it was, ended up getting killed, and yeah, he got big time reprimanded. I think I would have. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I understand where you're coming from, but I think that the best episode to talk about that discussion is the one where Picard falls in love with the scientist Nella Doren.
Yes.
Right? Where he's thinking about, like, I have to send her into a firestorm and she might perish and she's the only one who can do this job. But Picard sends her and then agonizes about it, agonizing on the bridge. Like, he looks like he's about to have a meltdown over this woman whom he's fallen in love with very quickly, but he's only really known for like a couple weeks, right? And at the end, she decides to leave the ship because she realizes that she is emotionally compromising him. So I agree with Techman16, who says in our chat that this is why couples should work together. I agree with him. as a Starfleet policy, I don't think they should have any objection to people forming relationships while in the service. However, at the first duty opportunity, they should break the couples up. They should move them to different ships, right? Or move them to like some sort of like level where they can't interact.
It's going to become an issue at some point. You know it will. It always happens. Dating a coworker rarely goes well. That's just my opinion.
It was really nice to see though Vance like sending him on the foresight some civilian transport to get him out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Great call. Vance makes the right decisions. Vance, again, from last episode, shows that he is thoughtful and direct, and he doesn't tolerate like bad decision making, right? Like he was making the tough calls. He was like, fire on Voyager, destroy the or it's not the Voyager, fire on Discovery. Sorry, and Voyager was the lead ship firing on Discovery, right?
Yes.
So good stuff there for sure. Now, I do have a small objection to the scene. I like the Viridian firing on the outside shield. Really cool. Love the idea of the Discovery from the inside firing at the same place to try and weaken the shields. Perfect. Then she turns around and starts shooting at the shield generator. Also sick. No complaints of any of that. What I find a little weird is the fact that the whole fleet of Starfleet ships inside of the bubble was unable to bring down Discovery shields for like for 5 minutes at least, because that's how long it took for them
Where's that prefix code?
Right? Like do something. Like you've got ships there. They're new ships.
They had co-opted Discovery's computer with their own OS, and that probably got rid of the prefix code.
Grant the prefix code, but they were shooting at it, right? Like firing for their self-defense.
Two things I want to say about that. One, they were using kid gloves, because remember Vance said order Voyager, I think Voyager and the whole fleet to hit them a little harder. They're really trying to be. Discovery is still a commodity. It's the only ship that has that spore drive. They don't want to get too aggressive with it, because they screw around and hit it the wrong way and it explodes. There's that. Now you're talking about the prefix code. Give you a guess. If you get this right, I'll give you $1. If I had a ship, any ship, and I could set the prefix code, what would it be? No. 8675309. That would be my prefix code. Come on.
We are now beyond 80s podcast. Send us your 80s one-hit wonders. Okay. I thought it was a softball. You know what? Now that I think about it,
there are so many numbers it could have been.
You guys are a little young for that. That just dawned on me. So I was targeting the 40.
Fan of Tommy Two-Tone.
I was targeting the 40+ audience in our chat.
Dude,
I'm sure they both loved it.
Jesse's girl was Stacy's mom, and her number was 8675309.
Yeah.
Anywho, the station gets a call. It's Navarre. They have sent a fleet, and they're there to help.
Navarrian Razors.
Yeah.
Pretty sick sounding name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vulcan Razor ships. Are they gonna? Was Navarre a razor brand back in the day? Why do I feel like that's a thing?
You're thinking
now?
Nivea.
Thank you.
But wasn't Nivea an aftershave?
I think they might have also done razors.
Maybe.
Does anybody else think that Renzo looks like Nicol Bolas with those horns sticking out the sides of his head from the Federation flag at that angle?
Okay, not everybody plays Magic. Not everybody plays Magic.
Yeah, but I only said it because I knew you were going to get it. Osyra's pissed about that too, but she's really, really pissed, and she orders the deployment of pesticidal weapons. This is an interesting thing that we've never really heard about before. What do you think these pesticidal weapons are, Jay?
I'm going to say that the pesticidal weapons is like that bee and wasp spray that you use on your outside, or maybe some kind of crop dusting sort of thing. But no, in all seriousness, the pesticide weapon, that sounds like something that you would use on a planet. I'm not sure what that would do for a ship, or what that would do to a ship, but it's possible that maybe it's something that eats away at the hull of a ship. That's the kind of the only thing I can think of that you would be talking about a pesticide based weapon and you're fighting other ships. It's got to do something like that, or are they going to beam it on and you get this, you know, the thing you got to do if you get fleas in the home, you put the can and it does the smoke signal or whatever.
Fumigation.
Right. Maybe those are about the only two things I can really think of.
We've got a guy in chat who just wants to call out that Osyraa is still working with Monsanto in the 32nd century. Good call there. Renzo, we had to talk about these pesticidal things. Where did we go with that?
So I think that you came to a good conclusion there, right? Like if it's shrapnel that's becoming contaminated, right? Shrapnel that breaches the hull can become like a serious problem for the crew, right? So if you've got contaminated shrapnel that's got a teratogenic, like really bad, maybe the same thing that's the Theoron weapon, right? They may have a Theoron pesticide or something, right?
Okay.
Pesticide.
So it gets on inside of your ship, small amounts just from piercing the hull, and your crew is in real danger, so you have to pull back, right? Okay, it could work as like an area denial kind of weapon. My only lingering like weirdness on it is I don't know how it gets past shields. If it's just like chunks of metal floating there, we've seen that shields deflect that. But
well, they probably know that. That's probably true. They have to bring down the shields first.
Well, let's expand a little bit off of that, because energy shields are pretty good at absorbing energy blasts, but if it's a solid physical impact, I'm not saying the shields can't handle it. Sure, the shields can, but if it's a solid, sustained physical impact, that could serve to weaken the shields more than just a blip of an energy blast. You've got this solid contact to the shields, and the shields have to use energy to resist it. That energy is probably heating up that metal, and then as more impacts hit, the shield generators become overwhelmed, holes appear, and allowing the shrapnel to come through.
Kind of like
Battle of the Basin Rift, though. Battle of the Basin Rift. Remember when that Valdor ship gets blown up and chunks of it run into the Enterprise E?
Yeah.
Right? Those were solid pieces of ship, and they just bounced off the shields, right?
True, but
and
it
that's
wasn't
a lot
the 32nd
more.
century. And we
Sure.
didn't have pesticidal Romulan bird of prey. Well, I mean, we did. It was the scimitar, but
plus that piece of debris was not any
big.
kind of right, but it wasn't any kind of ordnance. It was a piece of debris. It wasn't something that would explode when hit. And with what Dag was saying, that reminds me of those little ships in Star Trek Beyond that attacked the Enterprise, and the shields were basically useless against that because of just the sustained, constant, small physical thing. So yes,
and Jenk is right about the suicide runs from the Jem'Hadar too, right?
Yes.
Jenko, great call there. But they had to bring
that,
down the Odyssey shields for that to work.
In Star Trek Insurrection, the Riker maneuver destroys one of the Sona ships, and a piece of that ship rips into the other Sona ship. So we've got a little bit of an interesting, experience here. In some cases, this works. In other cases, like the Enterprise, that didn't work. But also, we have to remember that Enterprise was already under duress and had rerouted emergency power to shields. It actually had taken power away from its ventral shielding to protect the dorsal side. When that combat occurred.
Well,
so
I think it's
the
same
reason.
reason.
Be that circumstance that allowed the Enterprise to get away with it.
I think it's the same reason why a pebble on the highway could either bounce off your windshield or destroy it if it hits it just the right way in the right spot. Something like that. I mean, I've heard some wicked things hit my windshield. Like, what the fuck was that? And it didn't. Luckily, it didn't break. But I mean, if it had been like an inch to the right, who knows? So. Yeah,
I had one of those experiences recently. I had like a piece that like chipped it, cracked it, and then like you could feel it on the inside, right? I had to replace the front windshield. Nothing you can do about it. So
Yep. You lost hull integrity. Okay.
Back on Discovery's bridge, Burnham is compelling Osyraa to make a call to Vance. Osyraa objects, but eventually gives in. They call Vance. Vance appears. And Michael says, let Discovery go. She won't let him down. After an angry moment, Vance just wipes the comms away. Osyraa's basically like, yeah, that's not going to do any good. And she's ready to detonate those pesticides. But then comms come through. The Federation ships are backing off. Burnham tells Osyraa, hey, I got you what you wanted. Now put life support back on. Osyraa says no and orders the Discovery and Viridian to maximum warp. She drags Michael off the bridge. And now, my friends, we're finally at the opening credits.
You're kidding me.
We skipped the scene though. We skipped the fact that the .23s and Tilly's group were like fighting the regulators, right? But we didn't talk about the fact that the .23s looked awful.
We're going to be here
the
till midnight.
Graphics for that? Midnight. Oh no, talking about Star Trek like we always do on a Friday, except we're live streaming.
Okay.
You guys won't let us down, will ya? F in chat for everything we love you for. Yeah, no, the dots didn't actually look great, but there was a lot of action in this film. I could just chalk that up to...
Yeah, they got scratched up. There was stuff happening. There had to have been an
Ooh.
exploding console somewhere, and one of the dots was close to it. So
There's lots of exploding consoles. There's exploding dots, but we'll get there.
yeah.
All right, so those end credits take us back to Sukal's hollow habitat. He tells Saru that the kelp seems to have helped the wounds on his face. Saru makes an overture to make a traditional Kaminarian food, Sai Nu Lem. Saru explains how he knows how to make it, and that those are some of the best memories of his own childhood. Saru tells Sukal, I'm also Kelpian, despite my appearance. The holodeck is kind of weird here. Flash to Warp. Discovery and the Viridian are flying towards the dilithium planet. Aurelio and Zare are arguing about using the neural inhibitor on Book, with Aurelio saying no. Osyraa shows up with Michael in tow and orders Aurelio to give Zare the inhibitor. Aurelio says no again. Osyraa chokes him out and takes the inhibitor, telling Aurelio that she saved him because he's useful, that if he gets any weird ideas about that in the future, he won't wake up.
And that right there is, to me, I saw that as that's the part where I'm sure he's starting to think, I'm on the wrong side here, and now I'm just being used kind of as an instrument. If I lose my value, then I lose my life.
But his convictions change later in this episode, and
Yes.
I'll get to that too.
Okay.
So yeah, Aurelio's down and out. She takes the inhibitor, gives it to Zare, who drops it on Book. Michael says don't. Zare tells Michael that she's in a no-win situation, and Jim Kirk says he doesn't believe. And wait, it's not Jim Kirk. It's Michael Burnham. Michael Burnham doesn't believe in no-win situations, much like that other heavily decorated Federation officer.
But she didn't have an apple to bite into when she said that.
No.
She also didn't mention the Kobayashi Maru, so...
Sukal asks how Saru can be Kelpian. There's a lot of scene changing here, so we hope you'll follow us. Saru explains that hollows can change. Sukal verifies this, saying one of the doors used to lead to one place, but now sometimes leads to many places. Saru brings up the outside, which distresses Sukal. He asks if outside exists, why didn't the Federation come? Saru says the Federation is here now, and they're late because something bad happened. Sukal gets angry when Saru delays telling him what. So Saru tells him about the burn. He tells Sukal that they're there now because his mother reached out, that it was she who made the habitat to keep him safe, but that she never intended him to live there forever. Sukal tells Saru to wait, and he walks through a doorway. We fade back from Saru as the hollow begins to destabilize further. Book is screaming in the chair on Discovery. Michael pleads for Osyraa to stop. Osyraa tells her to tell Book to give up the dilithium planet, that the rest of the crew will be dead in an hour, and that Michael can't save them or the dying Federation, but she doesn't want to wake up tomorrow having lost everything, does she? To prove her point, she turns the torture to maximum, which breaks Michael. Do you have a comment there?
She had to break down and give up some information at some point. She held on as long as she could. I thought.
I actually thought that scene was really well shot too. Like, and where it goes right after this bit that we've talked about is really, really clever. Like using the quarantine field, like to buy herself a second to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really clever shot. Really cleverly done, and it's something that makes sense, right? Like we've seen many times where they've used force fields on Voyager to isolate a patient with a disease, right?
Right.
Okay, if you turn this on at the wrong time, suddenly you've got some defensive measures on it too, right? So generally, really, really clever.
Yep. Michael tells Osyraa to let her talk to him. She steps over to him and she says, Michael, or Book, I'm here. I'm really sorry for this pain, but it's about to get worse. And at that moment, she tackles the 2 guards who are inside the quarantine or inside the area and activates a quarantine field, locking Zare and Osyraa on the other side of Medbay. She gives Book a fat shot of adrenaline and they both take off running away. We fade to below decks. The crew is running out of air. Tilly tells Reese to share his air with Owo. Owo shares some of her people's backstory, that they can hold their breath longer because of their traditional diving skills. You know, I really like that because I learned about cultures on Earth that do that, and they have really good breath holding skills. I think that's really awesome. But in this moment, I was terrified because what happens when Discovery gives you some extra backstory about a side character?
That they're going to bite the dust.
That was really well coordinated. We couldn't have planned that better if we had tried.
I mean, it's the universal symbol for uh-oh, there goes the head. But no, I thought that was really clever too, right? Like, we know that OO comes from a Luddite collective somewhere on Earth, like people who really abstain from technology. So, like, cool. Now we know that they're also like pearl divers or deep sea divers that hold their breath. Very cool. It's nice to see that she doesn't come from like a typical background of most of our characters.
And she said they dive for sustenance, and there is a group of people on this planet. They dive for sustenance, and they have a genetic mutation for enhanced lung capacity, which is really cool.
Well, are you talking about? No,
I'm talking about on Earth today, right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Because I was just about to ask.
People, they dive for their sustenance, and so the most successful divers have this mutation where it allows them to not only have enhanced lung capacity, but they have more efficient air processing in their lungs.
Yeah, so they really do hold their breath for like 7 minutes at a time.
Are
yeah.
you serious?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Pretty cool.
Wow.
Humans are kind of amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we cut back over to Book and Michael in a hallway trying to make a plan. Michael opens a hail and codes a message directly to Tilly about drinking and fireworks. Then they take off down the hall running.
Now,
Tilly,
I thought that message concept was really cool because it was something that no one else can understand because they don't know the context of it, right? The fact that it was a really upset, drunk Tilly in a nacelle and Burnham does this nice thing for her best friend. Cool. No one knows that story. It's not something either one of them is keen to tell people, probably. So the computer's not going to crack that code, and no one else from the regulators bunch is going to have any idea. Very cool.
Now, here's another Scotty anachronism here. Tilly says that Michael brought synthahol and they drank synthahol, but we know from relics that I just watched today that Scotty didn't know what synthahol was and was adamant that he have real alcohol.
Maybe that's just because he was like a purist. Like, he wanted his real scotch. He wanted his real rye. He didn't care about new.
He wasn't actually saying he didn't know what synthahol was, but he was being sarcastic like we would. Like, synthahol? What's that? No.
Yeah, right. Light beer? What?
Yeah, might as well be water.
Oh, that hit home, Jay. That hit real home. Oof. All right. Tilly explains the story that Michael had found her on a bad day, and they played cards and drank until 00 hours, and that Michael never wished her happy birthday once that day. That's when Tilly realizes that Michael wants them to go to a nacelle. If they can get to a nacelle and blow up the superconductors that hold the nacelle in place, it'll knock Discovery out of warp and allow their friends to catch up to them. Reese points out that the superconductor magnetic field might disrupt the dots before they can complete the mission. Tilly realizes something that Deanna Troi will realize 200 years later. Or 800 years before, whenever you want to talk about this. We got to order somebody to do it, and it's going to be us. So Detmer runs to get the chemicals while Reese starts on the fuse.
Yeah, they're going to die anyway. They've got to go do something. So
I really like that teamwork aspect of it, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
You will do the fuse, you get the thing. Who's going to plan out the... Like, they didn't start debating it, nothing. They just got on board.
Right. It's exactly the reason why I love the as ridiculous as it was, the conclusion of Star Trek Beyond, where they're like, wait, let's figure out this thing.
Yes.
And every one of them is batting it around. And then somebody's like, wait, you want a high FM field? All right, we've got a radio right here. Let's play Sabotage.
Yeah, those are my favorite scenes of Trek in general, right? Like when the
Right.
crew is sitting around a table and they're just like bouncing ideas off each other, and
Right.
people's own idiosyncrasies or their own experiences lead to them having something that nobody else did, right? So same thing here.
But I want to voice the same gripe that I had last episode.
Who
with
is
this-
Lieutenant Dinah?
Yeah, who's the rando? Why?
I
All
don't-
these
I don't know.
characters they have, and they just throw in somebody. They could have. There were still what 4 or 5 side characters that we didn't see that they could have plugged in there.
The Sphere of Data was like, I'm sorry, Nilsson, I can't have you here because the budget is already too high. We're going to have to hire this glorified extra to be in this role. You'll come back at the end of the episode, magically.
It was very weird to me too. The fact that Nilsson's character was at the ending, but Ina wasn't, and then we had Ina the whole
Right.
episode, right?
Right.
Like,
It would have been much more fulfilling to have Nilsson there to be able to see a part of what she can do.
Yes, or Reno. Like it could have been.
Reno,
yeah.
absolutely.
It could have
But-
been anybody. Why?
We said that last episode.
Jet was considered non-essential personnel, and she got kicked off at the beginning. Osyraa made that a point of a leniency there or something.
Okay, I don't like it, but okay.
But Nilsson, who's been in the captain's chair, should not be non-essential personnel.
That's what I'm saying.
That was weird.
Yeah,
That was definitely weird.
I don't know how pay works for a show like Discovery, admittedly, right? But I was always under the assumption that how many minutes you were in the episode didn't matter for how much you were paid. You were paid for being on an episode,
Right.
right?
Because
So
you
if
never
you're
know
gonna
if you're
have-
going to get cut.
Exactly. So if you're going to be Tig Notaro is going to be in an episode for 7 seconds, or she's going to be on it for 30 minutes, she gets the same pay, I would think. So
I've
if they're
got
going to pay for
someone-
her to be at the end of the episode for a second, then they should have been able to use her for the whole episode. So it doesn't make sense that it was pay.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Are
So
we talking about Just Genius? Because I'm
Uh,
talking about Just Genius now. Just Genius is pointing out that Lieutenant Ina is the same actress who plays the squishy head alien.
Cool.
all right,
So that's a cool thing because Nilsson used to be Arium.
hold on a minute. Hopefully he'll pick up here. We're gonna get an answer to this one.
Who are we calling?
Watch him not be home.
Is this Alex Kurtzman? Do we have him on the line?
No,
John
no,
Billingsley?
no. It's my.
Hello?
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
We got a question for you, and you're on the podcast, so
You're
Oh,
live
wow.
on the podcast.
Yeah. So we've got a question for you. Something we were just talking about here. We're talking about in this last episode, in the season finale of Discovery, and the episode before, there was some completely random person, officer that was with a group that we've seen like all through the series, just out of nowhere, some rando. And we were saying that the character that really should have been there was someone that we had seen before as a regular on the crew, was at the end of the episode, but then the rando was not. And so our question was, because you're an actor, for those listening, this is my best friend Ben, been friends for over 30 years. He's an actor out in LA. So yeah, I put you on the spot, Ben. So here's
That's all right.
He-
Hey, guys.
Hey, so here's the question. What I think Dag or Renzo, which one of you was asking about how the pay works? Okay, Renzo, would you ask again?
Yeah. Hey, Ben, thanks for coming on. So my question
No,
was,
it's a pleasure.
yeah, is there any difference generally on on an established TV show? If you're going to be in an episode, is it like pay by minutes for how long you're in the episode, or is it just flat rate for being on an episode, you get paid X amount?
Well, typically somebody that would be on something like that is probably in the guild, Screen Actors Guild, SAG, so they get paid whatever their SAG rate is for being on that. And usually somebody like that would, I believe they'd be called a principal, someone with a recurring role. And that just depends a lot of time on what's negotiated, how long. It also depends on how many episodes they're in, how many times it gets shown, even if it's something like syndicated later or something like that, and what they get paid and residual from that. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. So,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that fits pretty well, right? Like this was a character whom we've seen a few times, but isn't one of the main cast per se. And then she's
Yeah.
replaced just for this one episode or these 2 episodes by a character whom we've never met before. But then they bring back that same actress at the very end of that episode for like a 5-6 second shot, right? So they had to pay her full guild rate. These are all established actors. So, okay, so it's not budgetary. At least that rules out that concern for us. Thank you very much.
Right. No, it's not really budgetary. The other thing I have to ask, did this person have any lines? Because if
Yes.
you have different, okay, they did have lines, so they'd be considered at least a principal. If you just saw them in the background, but saw them a lot, and especially anytime they are with, say, like the main characters, they would be called a feature extra or a feature background. And then if there's somebody just, lost in the crowd milling around in the background that they're not really with anybody, that's just a background actor. And that all has bearing on what you get paid per episode, for how many days you work. And that all depends, again, on contracts. I mean, a lot of the stuff I get paid for depends on how many days I work on a show. And if you have more name actors or people who are principal or guest starring roles, recurring, that can depend on, they're paid by the episode, like how many episodes they're on, stuff like that. So that really, it's like, it's almost like a root system. You have 1,000 different ways all getting to one point of how you get paid.
That makes sense.
That's good. I like that. Dag, looks like you got a question.
No, I'm emoting for the camera.
Oh, you're emoting for the camera. That's awesome, Ben. I appreciate that explanation. That is the stuff that I learned from you in regards to acting. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's something. Well, sorry to interrupt. If you're doing dinner or hanging around, whatever.
Like I said, I wouldn't hold what I say necessarily as gospel.
Okay.
But like I said, it just depends on everything. It's just, there's so many things it depends on how you get paid. And especially if you're SAG, and of course SAG is there to protect all the talent and production and everybody on there. So, and you're going to get paid
unions.
better being in the union. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. Well, good. Hey, Ben, thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Wish I could have given you just a little bit of heads up, but that's how these things go. We just start talking about it, and I said, hey, I can call Ben. He can tell us some stuff about this.
No, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate what you're doing. I enjoy watching the show. And, good luck with this.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks, Ben. We'll catch you later.
You bet. All right. Talk to you later.
All right. That's pretty informative.
Now we are beyond Who Wants to Be a Millionaire phoning a friend.
Hey, I mean, that was good information, right? Like, I'm not in SAG. I have no idea how SAG rates really work. Just done a little bit of reading, and it was good to hear from somebody who actually has to deal with that on the day-to-day. So, really cool. Thanks for grabbing him, Jay.
Yeah, no problem.
And Just Genius is saying that Ben now needs an animation like the spoiler alert. So we need like a Ben alert.
Yeah.
Ben alert, but it needs to be like blue and silver because Ben's a cool guy, not as like abrupt as the red alert.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks, Ben.
Let's go back to the hollow ship.
Okay.
Sukal comes out of the door that he just went into, and he says Kaminar's empty. All of the hollows are gone. Saru explains that Kaminar was never through that door. He explains all the worlds that exist outside, that Saru himself is sentient, and that they are different from the hollows. Sukal explains that he's always felt different. Saru tells him of his dilemma, that Saru was once at a crossroads between leaving Kaminar or staying there and being afraid. Sukal points out that his mom built the hollows to keep him safe. Saru says outside can be challenging, and Sukal hisses dangerous. Saru says outside is also more beautiful.
This whole thing sounds like a discussion with a normal person and a gamer. Like, outside, it's great. Go there. There's nice weather.
I mean,
right.
He is essentially an incel neckbeard who lives in his mother's basement holodeck. So,
yeah, it's. Renda's gonna start getting some hate mail here.
Yeah.
Dude. Why?
I mean, just look at it, right? Like, he's literally never met a single other person since he was 4 or 5, whatever.
True.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? And he's living in his mother's spaceship in a floor that is just a holodeck. May as well be a basement. And yeah.
Never been out with a girl.
Nope.
No.
So
Yeah. Well, before we, yeah, that's.
Do you think he had a holographic waifu?
No.
would she have been a Kelpian or not?
Would it have mattered?
Right.
No. I mean, the image would it have been a Kelpian?
That's what I'm saying. Is would it have mattered?
Maybe.
Oh boy! All right, this took.
I do want to point out something neat though. When we start like paying attention to Sukal at this scene, there's some anatomical differences between what he looks like and what Saru looks like too. Like his ears are definitely smaller, flatter, and more folded in with his head. So you'll see that much more noticeably when you see them both side by side.
Right. Later on, when the holographic covering
Mhm.
fades. You know, and your analogy, as whoa as it is, I took it as like somebody who, and this is just from personal experience, somebody who is starting to understand their need for a little bit of therapy and a therapist. Like, that's how I felt. Was like, here's a way of thinking about the world that you've never tried before, and it's starting to make sense. So now I'm going to be asking my therapist all these questions, like, is it safe to think that way? Is it okay? And that my therapist is going to be like, give it a shot, see how it works for you. And so It was very slow and encouraging. It wasn't forceful, like, you need to be this way. So I thought that was a very cool exchange, and I really appreciate the development between Sukal and Saru here. Even though it only takes place in a day for them, it's been 2 weeks for us. 3 episodes, 2 weeks.
Yes.
The kelp beast appears, and Sukal becomes afraid again. Saru encourages Sukal to face the beast, or they will all die. And this is where we cue to, this is probably our 4th spinning cut, 3rd or 4th. I don't know, but
Man, there's a lot more than I remember.
I whined about them. I was actually stream of consciousnessing this episode in Mike messages to Dag while watching it because he'd seen it like a day and a half before me. So I was just like, fucking cut spin. Oh, I like this scene. This is really cool. Another fucking cut spin.
I love stream of consciousness. If you guys are watching any episodes and you're stream of consciousnessing them, just hit me up on Trek Nexus and be like, what is this about? How did there a second Riker? I don't understand what's going on. Just go. Hit me up. Do it. It'll be great. I'm not Tony the Tiger. So we flip back. We literally flip. That spinning cut takes us to Culber, Adira, and Grey. And Culber's calling out for those Federation holograms that were like looking for the anticipated input, but they're not there anymore. Culber notes that they're at the edge of the hollow and that the radiation there is way worse than inside the habitat. But Grey acknowledges that he's not corporeal and he can go right to the edge of that holographic perimeter and see what's out there. So he does. And again, I love that despite the holographic masking making Grey look like a Vulcan instead of a Trill, Grey's hair is still blue. That's really cool.
I know, right? Like, okay. Yeah. Well, but no one's hair color was changed from...
Saru's was.
Well, but that's because
Saru
went
got
from...
hair.
He went from a Kelpian to a whole ass human. So
technically correct, which is the best kind of correct.
It works.
Okay, technically correct, sure. It would be like if I was on there, I would hope that I would be depicted as a person with hair. Sometimes I miss it.
It's probably a setting you can have.
Oh, I can have a hair setting?
Is there like a sliding bar where you could be like
Listen,
no hair?
I want to
It's gotta
throw
be like-
just a
it's
nice
It's got to be
big-
like in. I assume that when you're creating like holo programs and you are doing a fictional thing, you have like an interaction like Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever, right? You can create what your character looks like. So you want to dial up the hair, you can. You want to dial up the height, you can. Whatever.
Well, I'm already 6'5". I don't need to be any taller, but
Or dial it down.
I would
but
like
I
to
mean,
have a
if
nice
we-
little, kid and play thing going on, nice high top.
If we gave you a massive fro, you could be like 7.5 feet tall and it wouldn't even look weird. Like, chat, who has the best fro in history, televised or not? Throw it out in the comments and we'll think about it.
Okay, best friend.
In the meantime, so Grey takes a walk to check out the holographic outside. While he does, Adira asks Culber, how is Sukal the cause of the burn? And Culber speculates that Sukal is what's called a polyploid, and his genes are in sync with the environment and react to his emotions. A little bit like the Spock Genesis thing, although the cause and effect there is kind of muddled.
Which was something that we kind of predicted a bit early last episode.
Yeah, in our last live stream. We cut back to Grey, who's just on the edge of that holographic support area, and he's looking out through a viewport into what appears to be Cestus 3. The mountains in the background are pretty much the same. It's a horrible wasteland of a dilithium planet. We go back to Sukal, or we go back to Adira, who asks Culber again if Sukal has a genetic connection with subspace, and tells Culber about the subspace radiation surge they experienced in the 2 episodes ago. And that aligns with Culber's witness of Sukal's panic from that episode. They deduce that whatever frightened him 125 years ago was infinitely worse than what happened today, and that's what caused the burn. They say that they can stop the burn again if they get Sukal away from the planet. Jay.
Okay, so I had a feeling that this whole thing with the burn was heading towards that was caused by this guy. I was hoping it wasn't going there because I thought, all right, if this big cataclysmic incident was caused by this one person, I think I might be a little disappointed with that. I'm not sure what I wanted it to be. I'm really not sure what I wanted the cause to be. But I just felt that making it that, and I appreciate the explanation they give. I thought it was smart. Sure, it made sense. It's just that why go there? Why did they decide to take something like this and boil it down to, well, over 100 years ago, this kid got scared and millions of lives were lost because his screen went through subspace and did whatever it did to the dilithium and everything went boom. It's a great explanation for where they went, but I'm curious as to why did they go to that. It doesn't fit with me.
I'm with you. I agree. It's a shitty explanation, but it's something a little different than what we've seen, right? Like in Star Trek, we've seen many incredibly powerful race that can snap fingers and change the reality, all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen that accidentally wreck things other than like Amanda when she was beginning her Q powers and she accidentally caused a tornado, I think, in her family's house or something at one point. I think that was mentioned.
They caused the tornado and killed her parents.
Oh, is it Q that did it? Okay, but she thought she had caused it, right?
Right.
Or Uxbridge.
That was very much on purpose.
Okay, I might be remembering it wrong. I took it as he didn't intentionally want to do that. It was kind of like, yeah, he lashed out, but maybe harder and stronger than he thought. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he regretted it, but he seemed like he definitely meant what he did at the beginning of it, at least.
Okay.
I actually agree with Jutao on this one, though. We keep saying millions of lives. I really think the numbers are a lot higher. Our galaxy's really, really big. And if this wiped out dilithium galaxy-wide, billions or trillions is probably a righter number for us.
It's a very big scale to say that it was due to this person.
It's a mistake,
that's
right? It is. I agree. It's kind of lame, right? Like kid freaked out, wiped out galactic civilization for 100 years.
Right. Yeah. But okay, we could be on that all night. And
very, very true. Very true. My takeaway from it, I really wanted to talk about this at the end of the episode because I was going to distill the 3rd season of Discovery into sort of like a meaning kind of a thing where like his loss of connection with his mother was so profound that it caused him to break all the connections between people. And Michael's monologue at the end of the episode really goes into that. And so I took it more as like a symbolism kind of aspect of how people can lack connection. And I thought that was very modern, relevant in the context of Star Trek and today, in how we have all this amazing technology. We're able to do a live stream. We've got 3 people spanning 3,000 miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers, across the United States to come here to you tonight to talk about this. This is great and this is wonderful, but you know, it doesn't, it may not necessarily match up to like the power of a hug or just sitting with someone in a room and having that cool conversation. So there's levels of connection, and this one I strongly feel is reaching out and saying, connect with people any way that you can, that brings people together. And the title card at the end of the episode wraps that up in a really pretty ribbon. And we'll talk about that when we get to the end of that episode.
Yep.
But right now, I want to pay tribute to 2 of our commenters here, Jank Poe and Just Genius. You made a really good contribution, so I'm changing my background to Pam Grier and Clarence Williams III, so that you guys can just marvel at these stunning afros. And Jake is just like,
man.
So
Yeah. I want one of those. I kind of had a fro when I was a kid. I did.
Oh,
yeah.
They're beautiful.
My
They're
first
so
haircut,
beautiful.
all you should see the pictures. I was a wreck.
You know, at the end of the episode, you should bring up the picture that Will Wheaton calls you that nickname by.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And don't say it now. We can
I'm
say
not.
that at the end of the episode, and then people can call in and say whether or not it's true, whether or not that nickname fits.
Okay, let me go find that.
All right, so we're here now, and they say they can stop the burn if they can get Sukal away from the planet. Grey comes back and says the ship is totally falling apart. They need to leave stat. Sukal also again notes the hollows are falling apart. Saru says it is time to go. Sukal recounts the last time he went outside and how scary it was for him. He tells how the elder used to tell stories and songs that would keep him safe. Saru reassures Sukal that he will be with him and asks him to take them to the room that was the outside. On Discovery, the crew is collapsing due to oxygen deprivation. Tilly orders Owo to finish the job, much like Troy had to order Hollow Geordie in Thine Own Self, TNG episode, where part of the command test is you have to be able to order somebody to their death. Owo takes one last look at her fallen comrades and leaves, telling them she loves them all. We hop over to Michael and Book. They're trying to hack a turbo lift. They're also under siege. She needs 2 minutes to finish the job, but she has about 10 seconds. She does it anyway. Michael can't override the system inside the turbo lift faster than the bad guys will break into said turbo lift. So they hide outside the turbo lift into flex space that's about the size of the Death Star. Do you guys want to get into this hidden city space between turbo lifts or just move on?
I want to say a small thing. Discovery has always been bad about turbolift space. They have done really shitty roller coaster rides, but in season 3, it's like Daniels' pod worth of space in there. It's like a TARDIS worth. It's ridiculous. There's just so much space for activities in there that I just don't like it. It looks dumb, but you can rationalize it with Daniels' TARDIS pod.
Okay, so you guys know what Discovery looks like. You've seen the specs, seen the ship. Where the hell on the ship is this big, cavernous, city-like network of
it's bigger on the inside.
Lifts?
It's bigger on the inside.
I do not... who made the decision to do that? I think that is... I try to be positive about... I try to kind of play the middle when it comes to Star Trek. Like, I don't want to make it all positive or really all negative. I try to, like, kind of toe that line. This was the thing that drives me crazy, is this huge ass impossible kind of, and here's the thing. The Discovery is in regards to length a little bit longer than the Sovereign class ship.
It's all the nacelles. The ship itself isn't that big.
Right. Yeah, the length is like all nacelle. So where could this possibly be?
It's not. It doesn't fit. But Dag, you gave me a theory that I really want you to expand on, honestly, and I thought it was good.
You're talking about the Enterprise episode?
Yeah.
So there's that Enterprise episode where they recover that pod, and Just Genius is on the same wavelength as I am, where we talk about that pod had the internal space of basically like most of a starship. A lot of people could fit in that. They find a mutated Daniels and bring him to, I think that's the one with the mutated Daniels. Could just be the dead pod guy, but the Suliban really want this pod badly. But that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that if the space the turbo lifts now occupy have been modified with 32nd century pocket dimension programmable matter tech, whatever you want to call it, we don't have a name for it yet.
Let's not do that.
But if that space is like that, then okay, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. But there's something that happens later in the episode that makes me go, then why is it this way? Because we'll get there when we get there.
So to add some Star Trek Online story to this, right? Cal Dano's time ship, that pod that was in the Enterprise episode, we knew his name was Cal Dano from the episode, but he gets a bit more story and background in Star Trek Online. When you teleport inside and you do board it, it is a TARDIS. It's like an honorary, it looks like the Doctor Who TARDIS on the inside. It's very much a homage to that. And that's cool. Like it, no problems there. And the ship is absolutely, utterly massive. Like it has 180 decks from the pod, which was small enough to fit in the shuttle bay, right? So it's pretty clear that by at least the 31st century, which is when that pod was from, or the 29th century, whichever it was, they have the ability to like create folded space inside of things, right? It's like a what's the thing in Dungeons and Dragons, the bag of holding?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, right? So that part makes sense. I just don't know why they chose to do this for the turbo lifts and such. It just looks so goofy.
But here's the thing, though. We saw this before they went to the future. This was a thing that they did.
Yeah,
so apparently in the Enterprise had it too. We saw that short trek where Spock meets number one. And so this is a thing. This is not 32nd century.
It's a stylistic choice. You're right.
Right. To have these big ass huge, it just, we'll be here all night. I'm going to stop.
There's also that video that we watched that speculates about how like the crew of the Enterprise D, if you got all 1,000 of them out on the hull, it's like a tiny little segment of the entire ship.
Right.
But you know, and even though we have the blueprints for the Enterprise D, what if the Discovery's blueprints are basically just like itty bitty living space, giant turbo lift network?
But then why do people share bunks?
But then
because the ship's all turbo lift.
here's where my why is, and we're going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to go back. We're talking about it, but I'm going to bring it up now, and we'll talk about it then. Owo is literally able to portal from the ship to the nacelle. We know the nacelles are detached. We know that there's a superconductor gravity field between the ship and the nacelle that keeps the nacelle in proximity to the ship, but there is a visible space there. However, Owo is on the ship reaching through a hole, a portal of some kind, to drop a bomb in the nacelle. And then the dot grabs and pulls her back through the little portal space. Plus, at Starfleet headquarters, there's that one scene where Willa and Vance are just walking, and they walk into a turbo lift area and they walk out on the second floor. No turbo lift needed. So why don't we have telelifts on Discovery? It's the 32nd century. Why do we need all this mechanics?
So I got a good one for you there.
Oh,
so this is something that comes from Andromeda, right? In Andromeda, they didn't use turbo lifts. The ship just didn't have them. They had like essentially ladders, kind of like at a firehouse, and they would have like the fireman's poles, and they would be slowed and stopped by artificial gravity devices, right? Because they thought that turbo lifts were too dangerous in combat. If they got stuck between floors, if they went out of control, you would all just die. Whereas the technology for their artificial gravity was way more reliable, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. They came up with a reason for it there. Maybe there's something similar here. Maybe in combat on a ship, you don't want to have like that portal that people walk through all the time. The nacelles are the exception because nobody ever fucking goes there. But like
the portal's destabilized and you get stargated in the kerploosh. Now you're half the man you used to be, trying to pull yourself together.
Chevron Dag.
Decide yourself in pain. Here we go, back to where we were before. So yeah, the bad guys get into the turbo lift, and Michael and Book are hiding on the outside of said lift. Michael shoots through the roof, and Book takes out the rest of the team that comes through. Michael falls through, and then stands back up, totally okay after getting knifed in the leg. That's cool. The turbo lift network is like the inside of the freaking Death Star, man. We talked about that. But
Yeah.
Michael jumps from their lift to another lift in sort of that Anakin Skywalker floaty down to the next level on Coruscant kind of move.
For a new car.
There were also like gates that would form to speed up a turbo lift as it was going through.
Those are
Really
those
weird.
Wakandan vibranium
Yes.
transportation network gates. That's what those were. Yeah.
The effects were
ridiculous.
pretty good. This whole scene I thought actually looked really good
Right.
compared to the .23s we saw earlier. Effects here, they spent it on this scene for sure.
We had to tell the dots, sorry, the budget's too high. We need to render this weird scene of space instead of make you look like real robots. And honestly, I want to make a dot plushie. I really want to make a dot plushie.
Do it.
If I could get some HD GIFs, HD pictures of dots, I will make a dot plushie. That's what I need. Watney, thanks for pointing out the uniform. I love it because after 23 weeks of Trek, it's been a long road. Here we go back to the story. Whew.
Now it's in my head.
Michael, like I said, Michael jumps off. Zare just misses, interacting there. And Michael gets to ride on another turbo lift, manually overrides it to commandeer it, and takes out the regulator inside. She orders it to take her to the data core, and after a few seconds, the lift complies with that order. She walks into the Apple store, data core, and fights some more regulators. And guess who's there? Osyraa, who
Of course
correctly
she's
guessed
there.
that's where the insurgent John McClane, Michael Burnham, was going.
So
Michael has the benefit of familiar ground here.
Yes.
I liked the actual fight choreo for this. It was pretty good, generally good. What I don't like is this weird choice for the setting. I've spent a lot of time in data centers, but I can't speak about 32nd century data centers, but I don't understand what were these white clouds of gas that also were electrical that would poof out every now and then from the sides of the computer cores. Like, what is going on? They
What is
weren't even
that?
that they've been shut. I don't know, but they all reacted to it. They were dodging them, moving around them. So it's not like it's just some sort of like graphical effect for things. No, it's something going on, and I don't get it. It just seems like a video game level to me.
I've been in a lot of server rooms, and I'm just telling you, if I'd walked past a server and something poofed on me, that's it. I would have gone like, what in the hell was that? That's what I don't understand about this room. It's random stuff like that that's just in the room that's shooting out smoke or whatever it is for no reason. Is it Febreze? I don't know.
This is a workspace, right? Like, people have
Yes.
to man down here to make sure the computer is well maintained, do
Yes.
work here. What the hell is all this going on? Is this some sort of like, it's from combat damage, it's from the Orion operating system being installed on it, but whatever the hell it is, it doesn't seem like it makes any sense to me. Now, the wall of programmable matter that Burnham gets pushed into, that makes sense. The fact that there's going to be like a place where programmable matter has like access to the core, perfect sense from the upgrades or the refit. Cool. Especially pushing somebody into it and she coughs some of it out, also really sweet.
Love that.
Yeah, definitely cool.
Did you ever see Superman 3?
Oh man, where that chick gets assimilated.
Right, that when Superman is getting like all those ribbon cables and IDE cables and everything, got him, and they're like pulling him in. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw Michael getting sucked into that. I thought of that scene. So just wondering.
Mm-hmm. I can see it.
Yeah. It was. I like the fight. It's the fight choreography in Discovery. I'd have to give it to him. Has always been pretty good, pretty top notch. I'm not a big fan of randomness in their server room like that.
So Dag has very strong feelings about the ending of that fight. So go ahead.
No, we ain't there yet.
Oh,
Okay.
We'll get there.
All right.
We get there when we get there. That's if I said that.
Yes, boss.
Count them. That'd be great. We flash back to Book. Book takes a regulator out in his own turbo lift. Then he's got to fight Zere. Now Oo is like crawling to these nacelle doors. She's totally out of oxygen. The computer even says like oxygen gone, dude. And it looks like the space, this is what I talked about before, the space between the ship and the nacelles is connected by this portal, because she opens this channel up and you can see down the nacelle, and she just walks through it and drops the bomb, and before she can get back to that space, she collapses, and the dot finds her, and she's like, what are you doing here? The superconductor magnet will fry you. But she's just close enough to that portal for it to reach his hands through and pull her what we're gonna find out later, a safety. This episode does a really good job of how I run my D&D games, which is if you don't see them die, they're not dead. That's just how it is.
I was really freaking out about OO here. I was like, I really like OO. Jonah is really cool.
You come from people.
We learned more about you. Why you gotta kill her? She's cool.
I love OO. OO is like top 5 for me because like it goes Saru, Culber, OO. That's the list. I don't know who my 3 and 4 are yet, but
Right.
OO's between 3 and 5. That's just where I am right now. The bomb explodes. Discovery tumbles out of warp, and it's
Another
the cell
really cool
connections
special
are
effect.
on fire. Yeah, I really appreciated that. That was really cool.
Great special effect. And there was some precedent in that with Star Trek Into Darkness, when that Khan's big ass dreadnought that Admiral Marcus, the Vengeance, shot the Enterprise out of warp, and it just kind of like careened off.
Yeah.
But then I remember, I can't recall the episode of Voyager it was, but Janeway asked Tom Paris, "Do you know the thing they say about warp?" And he said, "Faster than light, no left or right."
Yeah,
so
the
now,
dumbest of things.
Right. So okay, when ships are at warp, we have seen them kind of go off to a different side. And for whatever idiotic reason, Voyager decided to throw in this line that implies when you're at warp, you need to stay on a straight line. You can't turn. But
that's the only time that's made a thing, I think.
Right. So I'm going to just kind of like whatever. Here's the thing though, with that scene in Star Trek Into Darkness and with this. So I know that the ship itself is not moving through subspace. It's the warp bubble. Now, when the thing that happened with the nacelle, that that warp bubble fails, but the ship makes an appearance as if it was moving, and to me, it seems like, okay, if you're going at the speed of light or faster, and suddenly you run your tire over a nail and then it blows a tire and you just start going, okay, wouldn't that be dangerous to have happen when you're at warp?
Absolutely, but that's what we have inertial dampeners for, so people don't splatter into the sides of their rooms.
Those things never work.
Inertial dampeners.
They work well enough.
Is the best Star Trek magic of all time. It's like gravity plating. Those two things together, we would not have Star Trek.
Yeah.
If we have gravity plating and no inertial dampeners, you have the DS9 episode The Ship, where you go to warp and you turn it into tomato paste.
Yeah.
If you have inertial dampeners and you don't have grav plating, you still have The Ship, because regardless of what the inertial dampeners are doing, the grav plating doesn't work, so you're just free floating as the ship flies past you. Tomato paste in a body bag.
So we see this in other shows, right? In The Expanse, where they don't have grav plating, where they only have like acceleration to create artificial gravity. We've seen things that happen what happens when your ship stops too fast? You go splat and you die really fast, really brutally. Ugh, right?
Jake Poe
So
points the same thing out, says that scene from The Expanse.
yeah.
Right there.
Yeah,
when you
The
said it.
Expanse
That's great.
does that really well because they're trying to be like more scientifically hard. Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, so I get it. But in Star Trek, at least, falling out of warp is not a death sentence unless you crash into a planet like Voyager did that one time.
Yeah.
So
Right. Okay. All right.
But you're not falling out of warp.
I'll go
You're
with
falling out of a quantum slipstream. Totally different phenomenon.
totally different.
Says O'Brien. It's like a cosmic stream. No, those are totally different.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, that fire, that the Discovery's tumbling out of warp. This causes those fights to get real weird for a second. And you know what? It's weird. You guys were talking about like part of the Apple store that was like shooting gas out. I thought she picked up a fire extinguisher, but that might have just been me, because she uses that thing to like blow at Osyraa.
I thought she had like a gun and she was shooting at it, and the Osyraa had a gun and they shot past each other. Then they disarmed each other during their initial fist fight.
I
it
swear
was-
I saw like
Yeah, that's what it is.
It was the two guns. They were pointing the two guns at each other, and they fired at the same time. It kind of, and then it
the blaster bolts just like.
Yeah. Okay. So Revenge of the Sith. Remember Obi-Wan, Anakin doing their thing. Obi-Wan, they're trying to force push each other, and then they flung him to the.
I get that. See, instead. See, what should have happened here is Michael should have shifted her book from Obi-Wan to Kylo Ren and caught the disruptor blast.
Ooh.
And then be just like just hanging there in the air. Yeah. So we go back to Zere and Book, and Zere's like, "Who's gonna make a bigger stain, you or that fat ass cat of yours?" And
Wrong.
Book takes Zere out into infinite dimension zone and proclaims she's a queen.
I love every scene that is about grudge, especially the ones that don't have grudge in them, because they're just great.
I mean, why? That was as soon as he said it, I just was like, ooh, this is, because no matter what physical state that Book was in at the time, he's going to get his second wind if you say something about his queen. And he just exploded at that. And that you got to stand up for your cat.
He's also doped up with adrenaline right now. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who's had like an EpiPen shot. Yeah.
That adrenaline wearing down. He's like, not anytime soon.
Yeah. Anybody who's ever been shot by an EpiPen knows that your heart is just going a million miles a minute at that point. So
we sag back to Osyraa and Burnham. She gets the best of Burnham and grabs her by the throat and just pushes her into that programmable matter stream. And she gets assimilated by the data, or so we think.
That's where we have that homage to Superman 3. Sorry.
But Osyraa's hip to the meta plot here. Osyraa's knowing what we know. She knows that if you don't see them die, they're not dead. So she turns around, and the next thing she sees is the blaster bolt to the forehead.
Headshot.
Osyraa goes down, and Michael comes out of the data core and vomits up a little bit of that programmable matter. Osyraa's clearly dead. I was disappointed here. I was really hoping that Osyraa could have been a little bit more founder leader about this and been like, you know what? You're right. Take me prisoner. I will stand trial. Just keep my people cool. We learn at the end of this episode that her people are definitely not cool after this.
I get it, right? Like sometimes shows want to have like a villain that can be redeemed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a show wants to have a villain that has nuance and has many shades of gray. You're not really sure if they can be saved, maybe like Giorgio, right? Sometimes you just need a mustache twirling bad guy. And I think that Osyraa falls more into the mustache twirling big bad of the season trope than, something redeemable. Her entire scenes with Vance show us that she has this manipulative edge. Leaving her around, not safe, not worth it. And besides, the ending for the female founder, if you play Star Trek Online again, does not end quite so happily. You have to release her.
Mm-hmm.
Beta cannon. Oh, sorry.
Beta indeed. Beta indeed.
Oh my.
No, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong. That thing sometimes.
I know what you're talking about. I played that.
You release her. And it's great. It's voice acted by the original actress. You've got Odo in those scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Rene Auberjonois in his last Star Trek, his last Star Trek voice acting for it.
Yep.
Nog, Aaron Eisenberg was in it too. Like they had a ton of people. They had Bashir Siddig, Alexander Siddig in it. They had a ton of original voice actors for this.
Mm-hmm.
Armin Shimmerman did stuff too. It was great. Anyways, point is, the story that they told was that they had to rescue or free her from her prison because there was a problem with the Dominion, so you had to return her to the Dominion. Cool. Then a couple seasons of the show of the game later, you find out that she's actually manipulating a alien race in her area to cause havoc all over, so you end up having to kill her. Technically she gets killed. It's not by you player, but she dies for being a bad person. So
we learned in season 2, it's not hard to kill a changeling. Just and Mirror Odo dies.
Yeah. No, she was quite a fun boss fight. I'll tell you that.
And honestly, that's how you know that Odo is true neutral, because he's the same asshole in the Mirror universe as he is in our universe. Oh boy. You didn't think we were going to go there tonight, did you? But we did. We did.
We always do.
All right. So Michael emerges from the data stream. She limps over to the control panels, grabs these giant isolinear discs because they don't apparently have isolinear chips in the 32nd century.
They went back to tape drives.
That's what I said. I like
data
that.
banks.
Did they get tired of having to try to plug a USB thing in 3 times, like this way, then that way, then that way it worked?
You can't. It's the law of the universe. No USB drive can be plugged in the right way the first time.
Nope.
At least it wasn't a bioneural gel pack that you have to like squish in the right way to get it to unlock properly.
Oh my gosh. Oof. Okay. So let's see. She reboots Discovery's computer. Discovery's voice returns to normal and declares the reboot successful, where Michael orders life support restored on all decks. She orders all the regulators beamed off Discovery and emergency power diverted to shields. Burnham hails the ship, asking anyone left to report to the bridge.
Neat thing we skipped. The Discovery at this point was actually contained within a shuttle base, sort of the Viridian. It had been absorbed into it. Like there was like a carapace that went around Discovery. It was held inside of a hold.
Yeah, it was like a big mouth that just
I
kind of.
totally wrote that down, and I don't know where I wrote it down, but it's totally here somewhere.
It's okay.
I'm so
But
sorry.
it was a cool scene,
Anyway.
especially for like a space pirate like Osyraa. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, actually, that scene was a little bit jarring. It was like, to me, it was a little bit of bad editing because it was like, we just fell out of warp. Hey, get the
yeah.
Viridian to tractor us in. And then the Viridian's right there gobbling us up. And I was like, it would have been interesting to see Viridian coming in and closing instead of just bloop, done.
So this is a real 90s
Like a hungry,
kid
hungry
take.
hippo.
This is a real 90s kid take, I admit, right? But there was a show called Pirates of Dark Water where the bad guy Bloth
Oh
had
my
this massive
gosh.
Leviathan ship that like the small swallow up smaller ships.
Just
right?
You thought 8675309 was a reference? Like Pirates of Dark Water. Come on.
Wow.
I
Wow.
love that show. Anyways, whatever. It swallowed up ships the same way the Viridian swallowed up this ship. So I can't stop seeing Osyraa as like a space Bloth now.
Yeah. So okay, we cut to the lower decks and Owo wakes up, which I thought was really good here. Owo should be the one to wake up here because her people are the people who have the better, breathing capability. So she could totally just be like, I'm awake now. And she sees the dot that rescued her collapse. It's sparking. It says it was an honor. Hearts out for the sphere data that just out of this dot. Because all the other dots blew up in the regulator attack earlier in the episode. We saw that. Owo turns around and sees Detmer and the others wake up, and they're all very surprised they're still alive. And Tilly says, let's get to the bridge. Detmer and Owo share the best hug the series has seen. Prove me wrong. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's official.
There was an Adira hug with Grey that was pretty good too.
Chat, you're gonna have to sort this out for me.
Yeah.
Detmer and Owo hugging versus Grey and Adira hugging. Figure it out.
Yep. Let's have it out in chat. Best hug. All right. Let's move on.
They get to the bridge, and Michael says the reboot has left them with their former computer interfaces, which Detmer's like, I'm totally cool with this.
Did they not have backups? What I mean?
Well, this was the backup. They restored a backup from before the refit, and it just was.
Why did they not have a backup from after the refit?
They could not choose a different restore point. I mean,
Maybe it was a question of space, right? Like they wiped the space
really?
for it because
Oh,
the new
come
OS is bigger
on.
than the old OS.
No.
The new OS is always bigger than the old OS.
Yes, but look at the hard drive size that we have now. You've got like a 1 terabyte fingernail drive. You're telling me that in the 32nd century that they don't have impossibly large hard drive sizes that you can you install your Windows update, it goes wonky and you have to do a restore, and instead of getting back to Windows 10 it decided to restore to Windows 8 or something. No, there's
All right.
plenty
That's
of
fair. That's
space.
fair.
I'm just saying that was hard to buy, was that they restored the OS and suddenly it was pre-refit. That's just,
We've all seen that meme picture of a hard drive from like 1972 and then
Yeah.
like of a micro thumb drive, right?
Yep.
Cool. Space increases have happened. But let's also remember that like space usage for software has increased crazy too, right? The original Windows 3.1 was installed off of 4 floppy disks.
Oh, I had them. Yeah.
4, right?
Mhm.
Now we're looking at Windows 10 occupying 40 gigs of space on a drive. And video games, the original Doom was like less than 100, was like 120 megs, I think.
Whoa.
No, 120 kilobytes. 120 kilobytes. It was
What?
really tiny. Yeah, it was really tiny, the original Doom.
Wow.
Then the images that were attached to it were another couple megs. It was like a two or three floppy drive game. And now the current Doom game that came out is like 70 gigs. So like we use more space. I'm sure that pattern follows through to the 32nd century.
70 gigs, huh?
Yeah, that Doom Eternal game, it's huge.
70 gigs.
I've seen some, and I have some games that they're getting up there,
70
man.
Gigs, 70 gigs, 100 gigs, 1,000 gigs is a terabyte, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1,000 terabytes is
A petabyte.
And 1,000 petabytes is an exabyte.
Yes.
1,000 terabytes is data storage capacity. So that game
Yeah.
would take up like almost 1% of data storage, or like 0.1%. I don't know the percentage.
I think the numbers are just bad when it comes to like computer numbers in Star Trek. Just generally, they're just really bad. Teraquads, stick to teraquads. Just don't give me bytes anymore, because bytes I know what they mean.
They're kiloquads.
Right, but after kilo comes mega, and after mega comes tera, or giga, and then tera. But yeah.
Coming from someone who works in
I should get a
IT,
petaquad.
who has seen things crash and just go to shit, doing a system restore like that, and it was from a restore point that was before the upgrade, I wasn't buying that part. I won't spend a lot of time griping about it. I'm just saying that didn't get past me. I said, I'm not buying that.
I'm with Jank. We should forgive it because science and computer technology in particular has advanced so much faster than anything anybody imagined, right? When TNG was writing about like, terabytes of data, they thought that was truly like incredible amounts.
You're not wrong. I remember watching, get this. I don't remember how long ago this was, but I remember watching a Hallmark special where there's like somebody who is traveling backwards in time to try to find the true meaning of Christmas. It's very weird, but time travel. And she ends up like 7 years old. It's 1986. And they're talking. She's like, I need to get to a computer. And her brother takes her to their like HP 286. And he's like, 25 megabytes of space. You're never going to fill that up. And I'm just like, 25 megabytes? 1.21 gigawatts. It's insane.
All right, let's move on from this. We could relax on this for a while.
Yeah, please keep us moving.
And Jutao's like, at least it's not Windows Millennial Edition.
Oh God.
Millennium Edition. As a millennial, that's offensive.
Sorry, I'm millennial too, and it's not offensive, but it could be. I don't know. I got to be sensitive to all the millennials now. Anyway, so Michael's in charge now, or not really, but she's like, hey, our priority should be. Oh wait, no, I'm not there yet. She tells Tilly that she has an idea, and she's with Book and Aurelio, and Aurelio's somehow there, even though he's a regulator and didn't get beamed off the station.
She stole his badge. That was the badge that was missing. He didn't have it on.
She didn't steal his badge. She stole that dude's badge that she black widowed in the hallway, who was stealing the badge off of the wall.
No.
Remembrance
She broke that badge. That was a different badge. She's gone through multiple badges at this point.
Jeez, man. Oh. Anyway, all right. So she tells Tilly she has an idea, and Tilly's like, you know what? We need you to lead us, and if it helps, that's a freaking order. Michael says their priority is to get back to the nebula ASAP. They know Viridian won't let them go, so they're going to eject their warp core and blow it up. Aurelio is suddenly okay with this kind of violence. And he's like, hey, you know what? Book has this cool empathic connection. He could totally talk to your mushrooms for you. And I'm like, this is a trip. This is the best kind of trip, but it is a trip. Imagine being able to look at your shrooms and go, hey, man, what's up? Let's go to another planet. Cool. Ow.
And, okay, so I'm going to, I was about to say this, and Jutao in our chat beat me to it. little ass warp core, huge room of space. And so why
Itty bitty warp core.
What-
Giant room.
I know it's ridiculous. And one of the I was trying to count, I think one of the 4 times in franchise history that the warp core ejection system was working.
Works? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean you can count it on one hand.
It was definitely a small core. No disagreement there. What I had the bigger issue was not its size, but the fact that as it was ejecting out, it was bouncing around
Yeah.
and causing sparks to fly. What the shit, guys? Put some rubber along the side so it doesn't crack into hell.
I know.
Like, I did not like that.
Or, you know, a superconductor so it can just be magnetically.
Yeah,
You-
that was
you don't just
definitely weird. But you know what? Discovery's already gone through a little bit of hell right now.
Yeah.
We
So
can
much
have some
refit.
scuffs. We can have some scuffs. Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
as far as it being small, it's probably because it's like a 32nd century tech warp core, so it's small and super efficient or some shit. So
Jankpo's like, you should have escorted the warp core out in a turbo lift.
I mean, if it blew up in turbolift space, would it even have hurt the ship?
No.
Oh my gosh, Jutal, you could add book as another option for the key fob. So now we've got 2 key fobs, Stamets and everybody who lives on that planet, Quajon. All of our space druids, talk to your mushrooms, travel through time, space, whatever. Oh man. All right. So yeah, they explained that Book has a sympathetic connection and can speak with the spores. They can use the dash drive to get them back to the lithium world to rescue Saru and Culber and Adira and maybe that one guy who caused the burn. But who knows? After a really cool Ready Go systems check, I thought that was really cool. More of that like team spirit of them. Shields are good, hull is good, gravity's good, sensors check out, all the cool stuff.
And then Bryce is like, the phone works.
Bryce is
Which
like,
ended up being important. He had to tell the ships to back off from the Viridian because that was a big old boom.
Eventually, but at the
Bryce.
time.
Bryce is going to be like, beep, 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 beep.
Oh, well, look at Galaxy Quest, right?
Mhm.
The character Gwen Marco, whose whole job was just to talk to the computer for the captain,
Yes.
right? That's kind of how he
Gosh.
has to feel at
It'd
times.
be great to like insert that scene where I have one job here. It's dumb, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Book runs down to the spore cube and they initiate the warp core overload. On the holoship, the beast asks Sukal to see past the hollow, and it sort of disappears into the barrier there. Sukal says he is afraid to turn off the holodeck. Saru and Culber reassure him that fear's okay. Sukal was reminded of the words of the elder, and he leaves the hollow. They step into a seriously eroded structure. It's leaking, it's smoky, and he says he hasn't been here since he was a child. Grey begins to panic. He fears the end of the hollow is the end of him. Culber says he's a part of their family and he won't let him go. And I really, really love how this reflects that LGBTQ found family phenomenon. I love it so much, and it resonates with me, and I dig it, and I'm so wowed by Stamets and Culber and Adira and Grey. That is so cool to me.
I liked it. I thought it was good moments. It was good moments that they had together with the makeup of their family. I really hope we see more of that.
Yeah, I've been saying this the whole season. I find that the acting that's been going on between Hugh, Paul, and Adira to be really heartwarming, right? It is nice, it is good, it is found family for sure, and it is exactly what everybody deserves, right? Everybody deserves that kind of loving environment like that.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. Saru tells Sukal that this part of the journey is for him alone. Sukal steps forward and tells the computer to end the holo program. And Grey disappears in one of the most devastating moments in Star Trek. As the holo end, we see body bags appear on the floor, and there's one body lying outside of them. It's Sukal's mother. Sukal orders the computer to show him what he saw there so he can be free. The computer presents the final entry before the disruption. Sukal is shown as a child in a holographic form, having just stepped past the holograms. He asks his mother, "What happened to our family?" And his mom tells them that they died, and that he needs to never touch the console until the Federation arrives. And with that, she also dies. and her death causes him to scream in a panic that destabilizes the dilithium world and causes the burn.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to spend too much more time on that. Yes, it was touching. I get it. I just the scale of the destruction I just think was beyond where they should have tied it in. But I'm just gonna leave it alone. Just gonna leave it alone.
Definitely, definitely a thing that nobody expected to be the source of the burn, but
It was pretty heart-wrenching though, seeing like the reaction of like a kid who's essentially just seeing his mom die.
right.
Really tough, really tough. Well acted too. Everybody involved in these scenes, super well done. We did finally get to see Saru out of his makeup, and Grey had his touching scene where he had to like say goodbye to having a corporeal form for a while.
Mhm.
So this whole scene was just generally really good.
Right.
The whole like Adira comforting him that I'll still have you,
Right.
and that's what matters most, was really good. They are doing amazing jobs acting too. Adira is such a fleshed out character at this point.
Yeah.
I'm super impressed for a one season character to be as fleshed out as they are already. Good job there. What I thought was pretty chilling was actually seeing the bodies of the Kelpians still there, right? Already covered in blankets.
Decayed
Like,
and
yeah.
yeah.
After 100 years, it's a lot. Like that's a tough scene for
Yeah.
a character to go through.
And even if it is even if it's a huge stretch in the writing for science fiction to have a character, one person, be able to wreak so much devastation without being like a Q or a doubt or whatever, I am sure there has been a time in all of our lives, even in chat, where something so devastating has happened that you felt like, Sukal, that you felt like you were so broken that the whole world just broke around you. And that is a powerful thing to represent here. And I mentioned before in this podcast that I said that like this felt like a therapy session, and this is one of those moments where you look back in your life and you find that devastating moment and you recognize that maybe that happened at a point in time where you were in a different mind space and it really freaking hurt, and maybe you spent a lot of time like Sukal sort of just avoiding it and looking in other places, but eventually it's okay to face it. It's okay to look at that hurt and find new meaning from it and move forward. It is okay to do that. And this comes from somebody who has spent a lot of years finding my hurt and putting it in a better place.
Well said. Very well said.
Yeah, so back in the present, Sukal collapses in a panic. He realizes that he caused the burn. Saru explains that his mother wanted Sukal to feel connected and loved. He says he was alone. Saru tells him he isn't alone anymore. Sukal turns around to see Saru for who he really is, a Kelpian. They embrace. Culber laments that they're stuck there till they have to till Discovery shows up or they'll die. Back on Discovery, Book is in the spore cube. Michael orders the warp core ejected, spark, spark, spark on the way out, and then tells Book to jump the ship. And tells him to jump the ship again.
Jump.
And a third time.
Book, jump.
And a fourth time.
We are ready.
And a fifth time. And all we see is the warp core detonating and the Viridian explodes from the outside. And we zoom out and we see the ships that were pursuing the Viridian their shields are being impacted by this energetic wave and the shrapnel of the Viridian explosion. And at this point, I remind everybody that in this podcast we said, if you don't see it die, it ain't dead.
Are you one of those people that's like Mace Windu is still alive because we didn't see him make impact with the ground?
Am I going to be one of those people to say, hey, Disney Plus just said they're bringing Mace Windu back?
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Totally did.
Did they? No.
Totally did. They're bringing him back in Obi-Wan. If you're watching D+, I'm sorry for this spoiler, but the third best afro to these two here is coming back in Obi-Wan.
Oh.
Sans one arm.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into
So-
that later.
So yeah, I'm with Dag on this one. If you don't see them die, you're not sure yet. And this was a really well shot scene. I knew that they know there's a fourth season coming at Discovery. I knew that the ship wasn't blown up, right? But it
Right.
definitely had my heart racing while watching this, going like, "Holy shit!" You can see little sparks around the warp core. That does not look good. They got to
Yeah.
get out of there.
Yeah.
Look, come on, man, right? And well shot. And the explosion was probably the best looking explosion that Star Trek has had, besides maybe in Star Trek 2009. Some of the Narada explosions were in the Kelvin at the very beginning. That was probably the best. But besides that, this is the coolest looking.
I'm going to need to watch Nemesis again. I know that movie gets a lot of flack, but the destruction of the scimitar is one of my favorite
I love
destructions.
the Battle of the Basin Rift. That's my favorite ship battle in
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
So-
it's great because we have Romulan friends who are like, "Hey, we regret you got involved in this. Have a drink." We cut back to Saru, Culber, Adira, and Sukal, and they're on this ship, and it's falling apart, and the radiation is bad. And we're watching a holo of Sukal's mother thanking his rescuers. She's asking them to take him home, to find their family, to talk to his grandfather. She says if Sukal cries because he's a child and she expected him to be rescued within the year, that they need to go to Kaminar and they need to look into the sky on the night and see all the suns and tell him that those are his parents looking down on him with all the loves their heart can hold. Sukal says he is afraid if he can cause another burn. Culber says if they can get him off the world, it won't happen again. Saru says he will help Sukal understand what has happened, but the ship is falling apart. Pieces of it begin to collapse around them. They move close together. They know that if they're going to go together. Suddenly, through static, Michael Burnham calls in, Saru? Discovery has survived. They're locked on to the people on the planet and they're beamed up, whisked away. Sukal asks if they're going outside now, and Saru says, yes, we are. They beam away just as that wreck completely collapses.
That was a good.
Really
timing.
good looking scene. Really good. Yeah, definitely like movie timing.
It
but-
was very much like Toy Story 3, was it? Where they're like all...
They're in the
that,
incinerator.
Like, they're in the incinerator, they're moving down, and they're all
It was
holding
3.
hands,
It
and
was-
you're like, no!
I'm almost positive
And
it was
then they
3.
get rescued because those freaking aliens are bomb, man.
yeah. So yeah, that was a cool way to end it. I liked it. The graphics for the Kelpian ship collapsing, really sweet, really cool.
Mhm.
Definitely looked like it had some mass to it, which was nice. A lot of the times, like things collapsing just like papers falling on top of each other. That was well done. So good job. I also like the fact that for a second there, like I wasn't sure if Saru was going to make it off, right? Because I
Mhm.
predicted last episode that I thought the season was going to end basically how it did end, but I thought Saru would die. So
Oh, okay.
I was worried about that too. Saru has become my favorite character, and we've already established whenever Discovery provides backstory for a character, their time on board is limited. Saru got the most backstory in season 1. I love Doug Jones. Obviously, you can tell he has given us a shout out at the beginning of this podcast and the beginning of all of our Discovery season 3 podcasts. Oh boy. The next scene we get, Discovery is heading back to Starbase, and all of the ships are lined up outside in a welcoming party. It's a beautiful scene. Michael makes an overture about how the need to connect is at the core of all sentient beings. It takes time and effort and understanding, and sometimes it feels impossible. But if we work at it, miracles can happen. And it's at that point where Oo and Jet restore that .7 that had rescued Oo earlier. Michael continues that the Emerald Chain fractured without Osyraa, and just in that moment, the Earth representative we saw 7 episodes ago beams aboard the headquarters, and she says the Trill have already rejoined the Federation.
that was the Trill I thought that beamed aboard.
Was it the Trill?
I thought it was a Trill.
No, you're right. That totally was the Trill.
Yes.
I'm so wrong. I'm so
I
sorry.
think we saw the
about
human
that.
lady in the background of the same scene, but I thought it was a Trill that beamed aboard.
It was yes.
Might have, but that was the Trill rep. You're totally right. I totally messed that one up. You're very right. Yeah, so she's like, the Trill are said to rejoin, and that Trill leader beams aboard. And then she's like, even Navarre is thinking about it. And that's when the Navarre president also beams aboard. And then we cut
Getting the gang back together, boys.
we cut to we cut to obviously sometime later, because we're looking at the sky of Kaminar, and there's a beautiful city in the background and the rings of Kaminar, and there obviously is like an asteroid or a meteor shower happening. And we see two Kelpians, and we flip around, and it's Saru and Sukal. They're staring at the stars, and Michael's overvoice is saying that Saru is taking time off to take care of this. It's a really beautiful backdrop scene there. We cut back to Federation headquarters, and Lieutenant Sahil is walking back from Admiral Vance. And he's a lieutenant now. He got back into Starfleet. We saw him at like the end of episode 1.
Yes.
And we haven't seen him since the beginning of episode 2. And he's reconnected, and he's got his rank, and he's part of Starfleet. And I just cannot imagine how fulfilled he must be, having waited like 50 years of sitting at that desk.
50?
But someone somewhere is feeling really belittled. Ensign Kim never made it to lieutenant.
I'm sorry, who?
So,
Who are we talking about?
Harry Kim.
Harry Kim? Harry, I don't really remember
Yeah,
that name.
minor character.
I know about Nog, who has his own ship now. Captain Nog, redeemed, has his own ship. It's
Well,
cool.
I kid.
I was
So-
told I was told in the 32nd century that Kim got promoted to captain.
Oh, good. I mean,
so-
he is a captain in Star Trek Online, but
Yeah, because it doesn't matter now that
Oh,
it's in the
boy.
game. Yeah, instant
Right.
Kim finally. So
Michael approaches him, and he says that she seems to have found her way home, and he is grateful to have found his way. They shake hands and part ways. Michael reports to Admiral Vance, and he tells a little anecdote about how his daughter refused to use numbers when she began to study math, and that she only used pictures to represent those equations. His point is that she didn't do things the right way, but it worked. It worked her way. And Vance says that he had torn into Michael for not doing things his way or the right way that he thought, but it worked. And she says she had a lot of help. He says she was the one who wrestled with how to be here and how he was challenged to do the same. He says both he and Saru want her to be the captain of Discovery, which I'm pretty sure we talked about at the beginning of this, or in a couple episodes ago. We were like, this is setting Michael up. She says she's honored, but she wants to wait until Saru is back from Kaminar. Vance says there's no time. Too many worlds need to reconnect. They found a way to mine dilithium from that planet and that nebula, and he needs an answer now. We flicker to some light shimmering on a 32nd century comm badge and uniform. On the bridge, the crew stands outfitted in those new uniforms.
they looked
Everyone
great.
is ready to welcome Michael. Oh, and hey, Nilsson is back for some reason.
Right. Yeah, like, yeah. Where were you when we were like about to die from oxygen
and
deprivation?
Jet Reno too is in this scene.
Yeah, she just shows up, and
but
so
she
is
was also
frickin'
helping
Linus.
Owo.
Yeah, so is Linus, so is the Dr. Pollard, right? So there are a ton of people that should have been in the episodes, but no.
Yep. And Sonequa Martin Green looked amazing in that uniform and with her hair, how she was doing it. That was a great shot. They all look good in those new uniforms.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yes.
They do.
So I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit now.
We're
Last
not
episode,
done yet. I'm just letting you know.
There's literally like, okay, fine. Go ahead.
Because we have I've got to get to the end of the episode plus the title card plus the credits music.
hmm
Do I need to get through all of those, or do you need to say what you need to say?
I mean, I can say it now. It's fine.
Yeah,
I just want to say that a lot of what happened at this very finale was stuff that we discussed in the last podcast and predicted pretty solidly, right? The Navarian fleet showing up right during the battle and becoming very important. Totally called that. Something happening that results in Tilly being XO to a Captain Burnham. Also called that. I had predicted that Saru would die, and that's what led to it. And then Burnham had to take over as like the mature voice over Tilly. That didn't happen, but instead Saru is off vacationing with Sukal on Kaminar. So that's actually a better way to do it. That way we don't kill the character, but we still end up with what the show is inevitably going to give us. Captain Burnham of the ship, right?
Yep.
So good stuff overall. And we start seeing the beginnings of reforming the Federation, which is what we have wanted from the very beginning of this season.
Yeah.
So...
And this is where it feels like season 4 of Discovery just had 3 seasons of backstory to get through. That's where I feel like we're going to be here, and it's going to be great. Michael takes the chair. She smiles at her crew. I wish she would have rubbed her thumb on that nub just to have that callback there, but you know, she asks what the news is, and Detmer says that there's a dilithium mining vessel waiting to drop a shipment for them. She asks if everybody is ready, and they all sort of acknowledge that. And then she says those key words that captains need. It's not punch it, it's not hit it, it's not warp me, it is let's fly.
Let's fly.
It was great. It was great.
Discovery exits the station and warps off into the distance.
Now, real quick, guys, before we go further, just want to let you know I've put up the Beyond Trek hotline number as we talk about the last little bit of the episode. Just get it up there a little earlier. It's a Beyond Trek hotline 513. Yes. So
we got a little bit of a reveal that there might still be some Michael and Stamets beef, which is very appropriate because she chucked him out of like a breach in the hull by blowing up a phaser. Cool. I can see why there might be still some conflict there. And then we got a really cool ending quote from Gene Roddenberry, which I think Dag wants to read to us.
I have it written out here. Gene Roddenberry quoted this. It says, "In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just 2 people, we are indeed very fortunate." And that resonates with the feeling of this episode and also the feeling of this season. Going all the way back to, you know, episode 1, where we see Book connect with that world and grow that plant for that healing. You know, and he connects with the worm. I can't remember, the trance worm. That's cool. And we keep moving forward in this season with the kind of idea of reconnection and connection overall. And it's a powerful feeling when you can connect with somebody and all of your guards are down, and you know that you're not going to be taken advantage of. You're not going to be abused in this space. It's a space where you can be honest and felt and accepted, and you can also feel and accept others in that space. It's a cool place to be.
Yeah, he's kind of you're essentially painting that Star Trek is a safe space for different ideals, right? And I think that is a beautiful thing, right? IDIC is essentially a safe space ideology, right? And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
it is. Real quick, guys, 513-279-2344. If you want to call into the Beyond Trek hotline, talk to us a little bit about what you thought of this episode. Ask us some questions if you'd like. I've got that. Is it time for that image? I've got that picture you were talking about, Dag. Let me know.
There's only one thing left.
Oh, sure.
The music.
The end credits. Come on. The original Alexander Courage end credits music. So great. Such a cool moment back to saying, hey, we've come to the end of an arc, and we're picking back up where we left off in with Star Trek, and we're gonna be there.
I like it.
I totally forget what the image was, so show me.
Okay. All right. Here it is. So this image right here, this is Me in the red shirt, of course. 1987 at a mall here in town getting an autograph from Will Wheaton. And keep in mind, this was the 80s. So the shorts I was wearing were so horrid that they had to call a sheriff that's over there watching, looking at that. But no. So this was a nickname that Will gave me. And this is in 2019. My son Nacho and I went down to the Cincinnati Comic Con, and he was there, and we, we walk up and just doing a little chit chat with him, talking about Star Trek and all that. And so Nacho just totally throws me under the bus about the picture. He's like, yeah, he was so tall, but look at his legs are so skinny. And
what year was this?
1987.
1987.
The year of my birth.
Yes.
You were like 10 years old.
That's right. Yeah, I was
like
10.
6 foot tall.
10 years old, almost 6 foot tall. Yeah, I've always been a big kid. So, the cast was going around all over the place, just crushing it for the promoting Next Generation, and so then Will coined the nickname Chicken Legs due to this picture, and he's seen it. I've shown it to him a couple times online, and one other time during there's the Galaxy Con that he was on. So that's the picture. Yeah, I guess the nickname kind of fits. That's
all right, Chad.
That's Chicken Legs.
Do you agree? Does Will Wheaton's nickname for Jay, Chicken Legs, does it stand up? Yes or no? Give us a call at the number that Jay's about to put on the screen, and let us know what do you think of Discovery Season 3? What do you think of this episode? Do you wish Osyraa didn't get shot in the head? Do you wish that the internal space of Discovery was larger? I don't know, but give us a call. Join the show for a minute. Let us know what you think. Or I could just keep monologuing. I'm not really sure what to say anymore. Maybe I could quote Top Gun.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
let me just say this. I am excited to see what we're going to get out of season 4. I really thought that this was a good season. I liked it. I was happy with it. The way it's ended and where it's going, I'm excited for. So season 4, and you're right, this really feels like the first 3 seasons was what was leading up to this, that now we're going to get Star Trek Discovery proper starting in that 4th season, because the show grew the hair.
The beard.
Sonequa Martin Green grew her hair out. The hair's longer, so she doesn't have a beard. So yeah, grew the hair.
Wait.
Yeah.
We're going to change it up now. Hear me out. For the 11 people who are watching right now, Star Trek up until now has been called, when it gets good, it's growing the beard. But you know what? We're going to change it up now. We're going to call it growing the braids.
Oh,
yes.
Make it happen.
Growing the braids.
Growing the braids. It's happening.
Print it, sell it,
like it.
ship it, like it.
But
Growing the braids.
I have one issue with this take, though,
Okay.
Dag and Jay. We said the same thing at the beginning of season 3. We felt like season 1 and season 2 were just a prelude to season 3. Okay, now we're saying that season 1, 2, and 3 just feel like a prelude to season 4. This is kind of bad. Like that's lazy. Like,
Well,
I don't know. I agree with you.
I do remember
incidentally.
saying that. I know.
I agree with you
that.
incidentally, but I don't know if I like it.
I don't know if the analogy holds particularly well. And maybe that just speaks to the weakness of analogies when you're trying to describe something that you've never really experienced before. And that is like every previous Star Trek series started its own show. And we've all said forever that like Star Trek TNG season 3 is really where it took off. Star Trek DS9 season 3 is really where it took off. Star Trek Voyager, sort of a bit more ambiguous. A lot of people say season 3 was great. A lot of people say it took off, when 7 joined the cast.
Yeah.
Enterprise only got 4 seasons. Really hard to tell if it ever really found its footing. Discovery's hitting season 4 now.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
so on average, these Star Trek series have taken 3 to 4 seasons to really either grow the beard, shave the head, or Grow the
And
braids.
it's not a Star Trek thing. It's a fan thing. We have
Grow
to
the
know who
goatee.
these
That's what I meant to say
characters
for Ben Sisko. It grew the
Grow
goatee.
the goatee.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's a fan thing, right?
Yep.
We're introduced to these characters in episode 1. We have no idea who these people are, and we only get 25 episodes in Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek DS9. With Discovery, we only get 15 episodes in the first season.
Less.
14 episodes in the second
Mhm.
season, and 13 episodes in the third season. We get less than half of our exposure to this crew than the Next Generation got by the end of its third season, which was 25 episodes each. So 75 episodes of TNG versus 15 plus 14 plus 13, which is 30 plus 9 plus 3.
This has
Right.
been our
42
continual wine.
episodes.
This has been our continual wine, and it's my continual wine when it comes to other shows too, right? Like shows like The Expanse with really short seasons, or shows like Discovery, or even Lower Decks, right? Short episodes, short seasons. I get why it happens. It allows for more budget to happen for each episode. It allows
Yes.
them to focus and be narrower. Cool. But on the downside, you don't get to do A B plots. You don't get to do B plots that develop characters at the same time as progressing your main storyline, because there's just not time for it.
Mhm.
Like there's no time for an episode about Data's painting habits and how he handles his cat and when he has to give him to Worf to take care of it. None of that. We don't get that. We get snippets of it. The way Grudge has her own protected room with force fields and inertial dampeners built into it. Cool. 3 seconds. That's all I got on development for the background between how Grudge is taken care of by Book. And that Book's name comes from some dude who was his mentor. Cool. All those are things that under a normal Star Trek season in the olden days, like the 90s and early 2000s,
Mhm.
we would have gotten episodes on. So
Well, the landscape of television
TV,
is just so much
yeah.
different. It's very different now. And you made a good point. Let's just say you get $10 million as your budget for a season. You're going to be able to get more out of that money if you do 12 episodes than you would if you tried to stretch that budget to 25. Then you start getting into where you've got your bottle episodes, your throwaway episodes, and all that other stuff. It's just, it's different. It's just different. Like right now, I can't even imagine Star Trek today having a season that is like back in the old days where it was 26 episodes or whatever. I couldn't see it. I've adjusted to how they do it now.
Well, that's the other thing we've got a difference too, right? The way we watch TV is very different now as well. Back then, when you watched TNG, if you missed an episode, it didn't matter because the episodes weren't connected. But they were all in syndication. So if you waited a couple weeks, it would probably show up on some weird ass time on a Saturday or something, right? Cool. Deep Space Nine kind of broke that mold by having a lot more serialized content, and it was panned for it at the time. A lot of the critics hated the fact that they couldn't follow along if they missed a single episode. Okay. Voyager was very episodic. Cool. Now, if you miss an episode, you're in the deep end. You don't know what's going on, right?
Too much happens in the one episode now.
And a lot of TV shows these days don't drop episode by episode anymore. A lot of shows just give you Netflix style. Here's your season. Have at it. See you next year.
Right.
And that has changed the way we watch TV shows.
Yeah. And I'm glad that they do it. And by the way, again, because I think we're going to be getting close to wrapping up here. So we're coming up on your last chance to call us on the Beyond Track hotline. It's 513-279-2344. Don't be shy. Tech Man 16, you're right. Babylon 5 did serialization really well. And I'll tell you who was the king of serialized TV, 24. Any guys ever seen 24? I mean, you talk about you can't miss an episode. You what?
Yeah. No, I had the first episode or the first season on DVD. That's how far back I go.
Right.
No, I.
Hold on.
And I love 24 because I love Kiefer Sutherland, who's on the phone. Is it Sukal? Is it Sukal?
Here we go. Hello for calling. Thank you for calling the Beyond Track hotline. Who's this? Oh, hey, Just Genius. Thank you for correcting me on how your name was pronounced. That was awesome. So, how are you doing tonight? Yeah, thank God it's Friday. So, yeah, it's good. You know, reviewing episodes. So, what do you think of this season finale of Star Trek Discovery?
I was actually thinking that the Zora and Wally's and all of that would do a little bit more than what happened, but what they did was cool. But I do feel like, you know, some hit and miss, but overall it was really good, man. I really liked it.
And apologies to our audience. I had the input for that turned off after we got done talking to Ben, and was seeing funny faces from Renzo, and thought, "What you gotta take a shit or something? Gotta pee?" Getting all fidgety, and so then I saw the thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, well I didn't turn the." Sorry, I'm not a radio DJ. I'm trying here, so just to back up real quick. So we're talking to Just Genius, called us in, and having a good Friday. So yeah. What do you want to see out of season 4?
I wouldn't mind the Red Angel without the Red Angel check.
Oh, okay.
There's some type of anomaly or some type of signal, some type of whatever. They go check it out. New planet, new people, new species. Or somebody from back in the day. The security officer they dropped off on the siege ship.
None.
Some Kelpians
right.
that something messed up, and you got to go talk to them, and now you get some more cultural stuff from Kaminar, maybe a Kelpie and Baru ship. How about that? You know what I mean? Something like, so that's what I'm kind of hoping. Like if they're kind of putting us in the captain's chair.
I actually really like that idea.
Who is modeled after Kirk? Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
I really like the idea of seeing a Baul like Kelpian ship, and then having Saru like have some sort of like trepidation about it, right? Because he's on Kaminar now. We know that the Baul and the Kelpians like integrated as a culture. They are together essentially. I would like to see Saru being confronted by some of his old prejudices. The Baul ate us, they tortured us, they used us, they abused us. Now they're our allies, and I got to get over it, kind of moment. That'd be cool.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Like an episode where they're just talking about unification of those two species.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you have a Baul Kelpian child? What does that look like? Is that possible? Is that even something they're trying to do?
Sounds drippy.
Like, what's up? Yeah, definitely. So that's what I'm looking for season 4. That, hey, the burn. I'm kind of seeing that as like, if DS9 is my Star Trek in terms of like where I'm kind of grading things at.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is DS9, then the burn is like Civil War, and now we're starting to get to the lead up to like the Dominion, and now we're starting to get the lead up, which is this, you're getting this brand new universe. They turned dilithium back on, more or less.
Yeah.
And now you getting new Federation, and what does Earth look like now? What does Navarre look like now? What are Klingons at? What the Cardassians been up to? I ain't seen a Ferengi. Have you seen a Ferengi?
No.
What are Ferengis at with all this mercantile?
But we know they exist.
And commerce taking
Yeah.
place?
Yeah, we didn't see the Ferengi. I'd like to see what the Klingons look like. I would be looking forward to an entire season of debating what the Klingons looked like in Star Trek Discovery in the 32nd century.
Look like everything, bro. Think about that.
Yeah, they should.
They should just look like all the Klingons that we've ever seen. They should just have the whole planet just looking like disco Klingon.
Mix it up. I'm down.
Klingon.
Yes, mix it
You know
all
what
up.
I mean?
I'm down.
Yeah, then you just can throw the whole thing out the window. And then when someone asks about it, they say, well, Wolf said, we just don't talk about it.
That's right. Very well said. Well, thank you so much for calling us Just Genius. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Glad you made it for the live stream. It was
Really cool.
awesome. That's great. And we're going to be doing this kind of thing again because we have a lot of fun with the live streams. So please subscribe to our channel. That way you'll, I'm pretty sure you get notifications on stuff like this when you subscribe. But yeah, we definitely will have the word out when we do that. Got an awesome picture of Sneakwell Martin Green up there. So, hey, you enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay?
Fantastic. You as well, my brother.
All right.
You all live long and prosper. Love you.
Yep.
See you, man.
Live long and prosper. All right. Well, that was great. That was awesome. Always like getting getting a call in like that. So do we want to go ahead and wrap her up and thank our sponsors and show folks where they can find us online?
Yeah, absolutely. I am here to thank our sponsors, who are Stephanie Baker and Jim Cook. They take care of us on Patreon and Anchor. If you enjoyed any part of this, consider becoming a Patreon, where all the proceeds go into production costs, and we do this for a lot of fun. Hit us up on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod, on Facebook at Beyond Trek Podcast and Beyond Trek Productions, and Instagram at Beyond Trek Podcast.
Now, just to let you know, some of that donation does go to the turtle wax that I need to use to keep this dome looking fresh and nice. And oh boy, hold on, we got another one. Hold on a minute.
We know, Jay.
Hold on.
Production costs.
Oh, here we go.
To accept.
This the Beyond Trek hotline. Who's this?
Techman16.
Techman 16. Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm still alive. How about you guys?
We're good. We're doing really good. It's Friday. We're talking about Star Trek, so couldn't be a better time. So yeah. Hey, so I just so you guys know, Techman 16 does another Star Trek podcast. And he and I talked for a little bit the other day, did a recording on, talked about the last 3 episodes. And Techman, if you would, you want to tell our audience a little bit about your podcast and then tell us what you thought about the season finale.
Yeah, so our podcast, the majority of what we've done is we mainly talk about the Star Trek Fleet Command mobile game. And if you're playing it, great. Awesome. If you aren't, I don't recommend you start because you'll go down a rabbit hole of spending a lot of money.
Oh, so it's expensive, huh?
It is probably the most expensive mobile game ever in the history of the world, by far.
Just don't buy things in it. You can play it for free.
Oh.
Yeah, you can play for free, but you're going to get left behind. I mean, I've known people that have spent maybe like $100,000 on the game.
Whoa, what?
They're like mid-tier players, you know?
Oh my God, that is...
Yeah. Mobile gaming is a scam, generally. Avoid where possible.
Well, it's an entertainment budget. In any case, so our podcast, we interview on our server, we interview pretty much like either the top guys or the most hated guys or the most interesting trolls in Galaxy Chat. And we're doing some more content with that, and then we've been doing some Star Trek Discovery reviews as well. But it's more of a we don't go into depth of dissecting every part of the episode. We more fixate on concepts, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do that fastest 3 minutes like Chris Berman, just recapping the episode. I tried that for the first time, and then I realized the background NFL music was a little too loud.
It happens.
That was kind of fun.
That's all part of podcasting and doing recordings, etc. So, tell us what you thought about the season finale for Star Trek Discovery Season 3.
You know, I'll be the negative Nelly here. I didn't really enjoy. I haven't really enjoyed Discovery for like the entirety of the show, mainly due to the canon inconsistencies. And the finale, if you've watched Babylon 5 and you've watched the spin-off Crusade, in the episode where the Excalibur goes deep into hyperspace and to find the Well of Forever, they meet this barely sentient kind of jellyfish race that live in hyperspace, and they're called the Fen, which is a kind of an inside joke between the producers saying this is the TV fan that's barely sentient because all they watch is the special effects. And that's kind of how I felt, because I'm like, I'm watching this thing, and by the way, the best thing about Discovery is the budget they have on CGI. It is probably the most a visually amazing thing that I've seen on television,
Mm-hmm.
but I just got lost in the CGI. And then when they start doing the whole, it's not really pocket space folding, but like the gigantic city that is the network of
The Turbolift network.
Turbolift, yeah.
I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't care what happens in this plot. I'm sure there's going to be fighting and somebody's going to die. Wrap it up, guys. Move on.
Yeah,
That's
right.
kind of how I felt.
Yeah, don't disagree with you on that. So, want to give us a quick prediction on season 4?
They're probably going to take a different route than I would like them to take, specifically because there's so little episodes in the season,
Mm-hmm.
and Discovery tends to prioritize emotional scenes as opposed to more, discovering scenes, if you will. So I think that it's probably going to be something about rebuilding the Federation and how, we've come out of the Dark Ages and we're now all happy and how can we help each other and laugh again and stuff. So I don't know. I don't have too many expectations. All I think about is everybody's going to be more happy and there's going to be more alliances.
I hope you're right, because that's what I want.
That's what we want. Yeah. The rebirth of the Federation in season 4, I think, is going to be what we'll be looking at, resupply and rebuild the Federation. So, yeah, I think it'll be pretty exciting. So keep chugging along on the... I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's kind of what I wanted from season 3. I kind of wanted that, when they went into the future, and I'm not going to discuss the season 2 finale, but when they went into the future and they saw this kind of like desolate galaxy, and everybody had to fend for themselves, and it was like, the food is scarce, and you can only get so much. What I would have loved to see was Discovery taking that, 23rd century optimism that is the Federation and try and spread that as they solve the burn, so that people are like, oh my God, there is a ray of hope and sunshine.
I mean, they did that though, right? Like they went to Trill, they got the Trill kind of helped out. They set things up there. They went to Earth, they spent some time there, talked them into a better situation with their own like stellar neighbors. They went to Navarre, helped them out too. And now that they've figured out that they didn't cause the burn, the Navarians are probably going to be pretty amenable to the idea of like re-entering like galactic civilization. Like they're not going to be the recluse that they've locked themselves into. I get your point, right? They should have been able to bring more of the like ebullient happiness of the 23rd century Federation with them, but Osyraa was there stomping on them and causing trouble. So you had to get the Wicked Witch out of the way before you could rebuild the Federation. So.
Yep.
No, I don't mind that dynamic. What I'm getting at is, the Federation was shown to be kind of like this. Okay, we fell apart because of the burn, for whatever reason, right? All the ships went kaboom.
Mm-hmm.
So either it wasn't portrayed enough for me, or I would have liked to seen them as kind of like these people that abandon everybody, right? And
I don't think they're supposed to be seen that way. I don't think we're supposed to see the Federation as being like choosing to abandon things. Like I think Vance makes that clear when they talk about that that star base that Osyraa is resupplying that they can't get to. Like it's like they want to help them, just political reality, realpolitik prevents them from doing so. They're just too far away. They just can't get there. There's too many things in between, whatever. I don't think we should think of the Federation of the 32nd century as having been like degraded morally or ethically. I think we should just see them as degraded in capability, so they can't do the things they used to.
I think they portrayed them as they can't do things pretty well. It's just, again, the tone of Discovery is darker, right, than previous.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
it is.
I would have expected more, darker Federation, and then you have this ray of sunshine. I mean, in very simplistic terms, kind of.
It's not true. That is true. I was really waiting for like Vance to do a flip and like Osyraa was the good guy the whole time, but I'm glad that they didn't do that.
Exactly. I was afraid that they were going to do that too because I think that would be lazy. I don't think majority of Star Trek fans want to see the Federation as a bad guy. They want to see the Federation as the good guy. Like I was saying before, right? Sometimes there's room for nuance. Sometimes you want shades of gray. Sometimes you want the redeemable bad guy, right? But for some things, the universe and I mean, or the IP expects otherwise, right? We expect that the Federations are the good guys. Yes, there is a bad admiral here and there. Yes, Starfleet fucks up here and there. Yes, captains do some pretty heinous things every now and then. But on the whole, the Federation are the good guys. And I think that trying to like break that, while it might be interesting narratively, it might be problematic in a like meta sense, right? Like if you start telling me that, oh, we're going to show you a story now where the Federation, because they didn't have dilithium, has now become like Archer was in season 3 of Enterprise, where he starts raiding other ships and stealing their dilithium. I'm out. I'm not interested. That's dystopian shit. We have enough dystopian stuff on TV already, and Discovery is already dark enough. I don't need to see like the full collapse of the morality of the Federation.
I don't necessarily think it could have been the morality of the collapse of the Federation, but it would have been like, again, this is just my point of view, right? This is what I would like to see, and obviously I have people that I talk to. They're like, I hate seeing a rebuilding of civilization arc. I'm out. Like, you know, show me something different. But for me, it would have been like to your point that they visited Trill and they visited Navarre and they visited Earth, right? And every single one of those episodes, and correct me if I'm wrong, ended well, let's start talking. You know, and I look back at Voyager, and Voyager goes through the Delta Quadrant. All right, you're in my life. Okay, cool. You're in my life. Okay, cool. You're in my life. Let's go. You know, let's move on. Like, we're part of this now.
Right.
Whereas Discovery was more like, oh, we're here, and we're awesome, and I just desecrated some Trill waters, but you know what? Let's talk. Let's talk about rebuilding the Federation. It's like, no, build the alliance there, right there. You're there already. Do it.
You want them to show, not tell us that it's going to happen, which is what they did at the end of the season. They told us that these alliances were repaired. That's a fair criticism. I'm with you there. It's just, you know, how many scenes of like the Federation Council discussing membership do we really want to have? Like, are we going to have like the first 3 Star Wars prequels where it's like endless scenes of the global government or the galactic government talking and debating things? Yeah. I, as a fucking huge nerd of politics, loved those scenes, but I can see why a lot of people wouldn't be interested in seeing like negotiations about contracts or how you come back to the Federation after you left and such.
Right. Oh, I completely don't want to see any of that. No. Don't get me wrong. It'll be more of like, you know, the 3 lines that they have about maybe it's time we start talking with the Federation again. Like, instead of those 3 lines being, we'll start, be like, okay, we formed an alliance. Okay? Well, we got your back. If you need it, you got our back. Okay? All right. See you later.
Jeez,
That's
sorry.
what I would have preferred, you know?
You made me just like knock over my water bottle. So that was my one faux pas for the night and first mistake of the year in the new year. But yeah, no, I've made many already. Well, Tech Man, thank you so much for calling. Really appreciate it. Sure. I've got some hungry co-hosts here, and yeah, we're gonna have a snack bite, whatever. But yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Please keep watching and following. It's great. And good luck continuing on with your podcast. And you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks. And you guys as well. And the rest of your 2021. Hopefully it's better than 2020.
Yep. Thank you. All right.
Hey, you too, man.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah, this was a great night. Thank you everyone for being here. We're going to think about doing a lot, more episode reviews like this. Saves time and editing for me. That's for sure. All right, guys. Well, that was the end of the season. We're going to be doing a season recap,
oh my gosh.
But that's going to be a recorded thing, and then we need a break.
Of the 23 weeks of Trek that began with the Lower Decks premiere on August 5th. Mm-hmm. That was 4 months ago, y'all. And here we are in the world today. It's the end of Discovery Season 3. so many aspirations for 2021 and Star Trek in this year. You guys stay plugged in to Beyond Trek podcast. We're going to have the best of everything. We're going to be hooking up with other shows to try and like build the greatest podcast Star Trek network of all time. So thanks for being a part of this. Jay, Renzo, thank you guys for being a part of Beyond Trek podcast, and everybody out there, we will catch you on the flip side.
All right, everyone, enjoy the weekend.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.